The sport needs to bring in controversy. It needs to bring in characters. Even the bullshit we're talking about, GM, Roland doesn't, buddy, Buggerlegs over here.
Steve's going to go and uppercut him tomorrow because he didn't invite him to coffee.
Get some smart people in a room, probably some people like you guys, and how do we actually create that?
Do you know the things that he's talking about? Do you know? Like, we all should know a lot of stuff. And, mate, I look at the sport and you look at the people who are involved in it. There's some pretty cluey people. Yeah. Like, how often do they engage with those people?
Do they not?
Oh, no! He's in the fence! The boat's in the fence! They're all in the fence! Oh, unbelievable!
Don't be nervous, guys. You seem a little bit nervous.
No, we're all good.
I'm nervous.
Why?
I'm more nervous than you guys should be, for sure.
I'm always nervous. I actually always do get a bit nervous.
Did you want anything else from Red Bull?
No, that'll do.
No, that's cool.
No.
Anything else from Red Bull?
No, anything else other than Red Bull?
Oh, like add some vodka into their Red Bull.
Good.
No, we're all good.
Sound check.
There you go. Done.
Sound check.
Sound check.
Cheers, boys. His Red Bull sounds different. Cheers, guys. Thank you for coming in.
They're looking for a
Elliot.
set of wings, and I'll tell you what, you got it today with that race, didn't you, fellas?
We got a
how awesome.
Mate, unbelievable day. We've got a couple guests in the studio today. It's our first ever, actually, no, that's a lie. So I was going to say it's our first time with two guests, but I did one solo with Will Brown and Peter Adderton at the start, which was great fun. But today we've got Earl Evans and Steve Blackmore in the studio. Earl Evans start with the man himself, with the CEO of Shaw and Partners, a new partner to our podcast. Mate, thank you so much. It's we always say on the pod that the support we get from the partners and Patreon members as well keep us alive and allow us to do these things. You're also a shareholder in Race, so we're going to deep dive into that and you get some thoughts on that. And not only that, you're my boss, I guess, as well, co-owner of Triple Eight, and now Steve Blackmore, director of Southern Cross Truck Rentals, co-owner of Triple Eight as well. So I'm very nervous for today's pod. I've got two bosses in the house. And so we better not get this wrong. But welcome to the show. It's great to have you both here.
Well, it is a performance review, Scott.
I might have some more. Might have another drink.
Well, did you watch us in Adelaide in the NASCARs? Because I actually beat him one of the sessions. So you're saying I'm a chance, Steve, are you?
Oh, mate, I think you are a chance. There was a bit of an incident, actually, in the NASCAR, Scotty.
I knew that would come up.
Did
you hear about this, Steve?
Problem with the steering wheel not being on the car?
So before Bathurst and the bend, you'll just lean in, give that a tug before he heads off?
Yeah. It's very important, Scotty.
So what happened, Earl? I just it was really embarrassing, I'll be honest, because I haven't driven a lot of different cars, and the last time I had a steering column that had like two pins to lock the steering wheel on with was a Formula Ford, I think, and I got in the NASCAR, put the wheel on because you have to take it off to get in these things. It's so much tighter than a supercar. Put it in and clipped the wheel on, pulled it, thought it was fine. 4 laps in, Elliot come past me, and so I'm up it then. I'm like, okay, I'll try and get him back through 1-2 at Adelaide, the chicane, about 100. Probably doing 130 k's an hour.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
The steering wheel come off the column, completely off, across the curb, airborne, landed. I'm bouncing around trying to put it on, and of course I made the wall, but right before I did, I even grabbed the column and panicked, just trying everything I could to turn this thing. Straight under the tyre barrier. And Speed Cafe, of course, picked it up. It was 2 days. I thought I got away with it. They didn't.
No.
But yeah, after that though, I make light work of Elliot. Just so you guys know, I was definitely faster.
Oh, 100%.
So my co-driver, I feel, should be safe. But we'll see. And yeah, good job today. It's Thursday. Recording's now 1-2 for the boys.
Oh, mate, that's just like an amazing day, to be honest with you. Like, you know, look, it's no secret we've been under a bit of pressure in the last week. So to come out and just see the boys perform, it's what they do.
Yeah.
They're amazing. And, mate, 1-2. To be honest, not really a surprise, but relieved anyway.
How was it being at the GP? Does that make it more special? Because obviously you feel like it's on the world stage.
A win's a win.
Yeah. doesn't make a difference? Yeah.
1-2, you take that any day, anywhere.
Yeah.
It's disappointing to see they didn't have the Grand Prix podium though.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I thought they still would do that, but they've moved them because they're on the outside of the track now.
It's not bad though. Like, to be frank, where they've moved it to, into that paddock from last year or the year before, the crowd flow, my guess is the audience will uptick hugely tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the interaction with the fans, like we had them knee deep out the front of all of the supercar garages today. I actually think they've done a fantastic job. I was actually a seller of it when I heard it.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting rid of us off the pits. We're all special. They're putting the F2s there. And, but I think where they put us is first class. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
great for engagement.
Yeah.
I think it'll win more fans. Yeah. They get to see everybody wheel their trolleys out, wheel the cars out. No, really good. You guys
probably.
did you guys go out today?
No, we just watched on TV. We'll go out tomorrow for a look.
See it tomorrow. It'll be interesting to get your views. But I thought it was a winner.
Yeah,
And
right.
I think, Scotty, too, that where they did do the podium, in reality, if they'd done it on the Grand Prix one, not many fans would have been able to see it and witness it.
Yeah, okay.
And the way that it's all set up there now, like it's mate, when we're in the garages just working, mate, it's deep, 5, 6 people deep standing at the front door,
Yeah, right.
watching
Brilliant.
what's going on, which is awesome. Because last year, this fans really didn't get to see.
It was a tricky spot. I remember last year, I think you had to go through the F2 paddock to get there, and the people were trying to stop you because you didn't have the right pass. It was just like,
There was
it was definitely in the bad
There
spot.
was no GA last year, was
Last
there?
year, I don't think.
Yeah,
Correct.
which obviously, Supercars is meant to be accessible. It's meant to be fan engaging. So it's obviously sounds like a good move.
At the end of the day, I'm not sure that it was necessarily supercar driven. I think it was an effort to put the F2s next to the F1s.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's actually turned out to be a masterstroke, whether it be luck or design, because it's excellent. And there's thousands of people that are going past there every day coming into the pits. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, right. And the race, I didn't think it would only take this long to trump Sydney's Saturday night race. I thought today's race was unbelievable. I mean, obviously you guys liked it. You got the 1-2, but we were screaming at the TV. I actually recorded a bit and posted it on our socials today because that's probably one of the most exciting supercar races I've seen in a very long time. So sprint racing at the Grand Prix is a big tick.
Well, touching on it, because they've moved you now, you don't have the access to pit lanes, so there's no pit stops. So it is just a straight out sprint race, no stops, no strategy, go hard.
Yeah.
So again,
That's good. 4 races over 4 days.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Plenty to do. Today's the best day of all of it. Obviously, 2 qualifiers in a row.
yeah, most sessions.
Awesome.
Hunters, just a moment to shout out our partners. Now, this is a very important part of the show. I know it interrupts it, and I hope you're enjoying it. But these guys allow us to keep coming back and creating content like this one for you guys. So I want to shout out Quadlock. Quadlock's a relatively new partner of the show, so we are pumped to have those guys on board. Head to quadlockcase.net if you're in the market for a phone case or any of the attachments that go along with it. And of course, East Coast Car Rentals, AHU15 for 15% off discount on what is already fantastically priced hire cars. So if you're heading away for a holiday or work, make sure you think of those guys. And if you're in the market to buy a car, not rent one, Lancaster Motor Group have got you covered. They're also running a very special offer until the end of June 2025. If you get your vehicle serviced at Lancaster Motor Group and mention Apex Hunters United, they'll offer you a free wheel alignment. Sounds pretty good to me. Shore & Partners, you'll have noticed them in this episode with Earl and Steve. They're a new partner of ours. So Shore & Partners Financial Services, check those guys out. And like I said, the links to all of these websites will be in the description below. Trico Products, day one partner. Check those guys out. If you're in the market for wiper blades, of course, Trico are the ones for you. Just steer clear of every other brand. Go straight to Trico, only the best. But thanks everyone for the support. And if you want to support us too, head to Patreon. You don't have to, but that keeps us going as well. And we do appreciate the community that we're building there. But enough of that. It's time to get back to the show. Interesting, Cam Waters came back through. So
Interesting.
I'm totally biased as well, as everyone knows. So, of course, I was happy when he was down the bottom and now he's moved back up. So kept the boys on their toes. I think he finished 8th. So he didn't take many points out of him.
We want our pits back. We're used to 1, right? So we're sort of,
And Randall did an awesome job actually as well, which,
they both did,
there's a few guys. We've been critical, or not critical, but expecting Ryan Wood to be
he
further
was
up
awesome.
the field. And then today, unbelievable. So, I think it was an all-round pretty good race.
So you guys started life in Supercars as commercial partners, with Shore & Partners and Southern Cross Truck Rentals. Just tell us a little bit, Earl, maybe you go first, mate. How did you first get into motorsport? What was your first team that you backed or driver that you backed? And just give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've watched Bathurst since I've been 5 with my father, like all rev heads and people that are involved in it. So I'm a pretty good historian of supercars and all of the things basically on 4 wheels, whether it be Indy, NASCAR, F1, etc. So great passion, deep love for the sport. By pure luck, one of the other great passions I have in life is rugby league, and I'm a entrenched, die-hard Manly Warringah fan, and born and bred in and brought up in Manly for the first portion of my life.
Yep.
And as 2 degrees of separation, bloody Ginger Meggs here on my left happens to be a mad Manly fan as well. So I met him at the football. That's how we became great mates.
So it wasn't through motorsport you guys met?
No.
We just happened to be at motorsport at the same time.
Yeah, crazy.
Right.
Absolutely crazy. Met him at Manly and we become great mates. But through the commercial partners at Manly, they said, there might be this opportunity for this supercar team. And I said, oh, yeah, great. No problem. And I'd worked it out. It was Erebus, right?
Yep.
Eddie Kawinko's car. And, didn't know anything about Will Brown. And they told me all about Will. I met Barry. I took my son up and watched a race and said, yeah, right, I'll do something. And I think it was like like all these things, you know, you start absolutely tiny, you know. And I'm a great believer in, you want to get to know people and get to know how to. So I put $15,000 and it was a little sticker on the front of the car. I thought it was like this big, but it was really this big.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story. It was at Bathurst. I remember they did that round at Bathurst 4 years ago. Oh, one of the first rounds. Or something.
500.
When they started the year there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just sent an email to all of my staff, 450, 500 staff around Australia. I just sent them around saying, we're just sponsoring this young kid, Will Brown. He's absolutely red hot. He's fantastic. Make sure you turn the TVs on our dealing rooms around the country and watch him. And it was literally, I kid you not, it was less than 3 minutes. And all of a sudden, I'd obviously turned away and looked somewhere else. My phone starts lighting up. And Will had put it into the wall.
That's right, in the WD-40 car, and you guys were, gotcha.
So getting all these texts, red hot, he's just put it in the wall. I've looked up at the screens, that can't be right.
I think he was purple, though, at that time in practice. He was into the wall.
He was third or something.
Yeah. Anyway, that's how it all started. Right. I built a relationship with Barry and Betty and Erebus, and that's how the whole relationship grew. Then we did the I was sitting there and I was actually going to do a Sydney to Hobart race with a couple of mates and hire a 100-footer. And I happened to be at that same time, I noticed that there was 2 different sponsors on each car. And I actually said to Barry, and I said, you know, just what would it cost, just stupid question, to actually put our stickers all over the car for Bathurst? And he came back and said to me, you know, I can't remember what it was at the time, 250,000 or something. And Sydney to Hobart, Bathurst, I'm going to do that. And that's how we got the Shaw and Partners car for the Sandown race and the Bathurst race, you know, the Shaw and Partners. And they got provisional pole on the Friday and that's how we built the relationship, basically.
One of the things I loved when I saw you join the sport was you actually supported Feel the Magic at one of the, I think it might have been the very first Bathurst where you ran the Shaw and Partners car.
That's right.
And you guys absolutely cleaned up. And I don't know if you even realised it was going to be as successful as it was because you donated, I think it was like 10 grand every like pole position, and if the team got top 10 or top 5, it would go up. And you donated a massive amount of money to Feel the Magic, which is close to my heart. But it was, my first kind of was where I became aware of you. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like,
well, we do. I mean, Shaw and Partners does a lot on the philanthropic side. So we like to put back into the communities we work in. And that was just, we always like to do it with our activations or partnerships in sport or business. And that was great. Yeah. Very cool.
What about yourself, mate? How did you?
Mate, I've been around motorsport forever, and it's a real funny sort of situation because, like, I grew up as a little kid hanging around motorbikes and motorbike racing and involved in that. Like, my cousin was Australian Superbike champion. He was actually Paul Feeney's teammate for a while. So, you know, so I grew up around motorbikes, and it's funny because I was talking to Feen at Christmas, you know, and he said, mate, you know, my son now hangs around the pits, and he says, I remember when you were a little little red-headed kid hanging around the pits back in all those days. And I did. And obviously I'd left, sort of got out of motorsport because of my career and different things that I did. And after I retired, like I was in the police, I retired from the police. After I retired from the police, I wanted to get back into motorsport in some way. And obviously, I mean, you know, I'm actually schoolmates with Pete Adderton. So Pete and I have known each other forever. And Pete spoke to me and you know, it was all just really coincidental, but, you know, I'd met Earl and Pete had asked me to get behind Brodie Kostecki and at Erebus. Now, I didn't really know Erebus from a bar of soap, to be honest with you, but Pete was backing Brodie and backing the car, and so I got on board with that. And you know, when obviously I was on the other car and, it all just sort of come together and mate, as the years went on, and you know, look, we'll talk a little bit more about it, you know, about how it sort of ended. But to begin with and how it all started, mate, very, very accommodating. You know, Shannon, your partner, you know, like it was just amazing, you know, made you feel like a part of the team. Mate, you had a voice, you could talk, you could question things. And I think, you know, in those days, mate, that team was punching well above their weight. And Brodie and Will, mate, a couple of young bulls, mate, plenty of talent. And mate, it was a really, really enjoyable time. And the guys there were amazing, like all of them, you know, the mechanics and everybody. It was a really, really good time. So I just kept, you know, renewing and increasing and all that sort of stuff. And it was all sort of going along really, really well until it wasn't.
Yeah, and what was that shift like, and what do you think, or when do you think that started to happen? Because, I mean, publicly we only really heard of it at the beginning of the year where Brodie announced he was stepping back. But when did you, or was there a point you felt like there wasn't the enjoyment anymore, or the freedom within the pit that you felt was there at the beginning?
Yeah, look, I think it was, I thought personally from the Bathurst that year, it was going downhill.
Yep, the year prior to Brodie stepping out.
Yeah, the year prior to Brodie stepping out, I thought there was certainly some angst at the time around different things. I know, by the time sort of it got to the last round, there was a bit of friction.
Yep.
Nothing that I didn't think would be recoverable or be able to sort out and all that sort of stuff. It's a high, intense sport. I think, in fairness, Erebus probably found themselves in a place that they weren't so familiar with.
Yep.
It's hard, you're winning and the expectation and there's pressure and, and mate, we had it was an unbelievable ride and journey for us, Lyndon at Coke and,
yep.
Earl, myself and the other partners on board. Like, we met really good people. It was unreal.
Yeah.
But for me, I was in New York over New Year that night, that year, and I had dinner with Brodie. And at that stage, at dinner, Brodie told me that there was some trouble and he was in doubt.
Whether he'd continue.
And I didn't, and after that sort of time, I probably built up a fairly good relationship with Brode, just checking in on him and making sure, he's okay.
Yep.
Mate, I did, when I got back, as soon as I got back, I did have a conversation with Baz and express my view on that. But, mate, it wasn't our business or our place to get involved in the dynamics of what was unfolding.
Yeah, of course.
That wasn't our place. And really we didn't know what was coming. And for me anyway, I can only speak for me, but, I'd already sort of made a decision that I'm probably going to pull back and that sort of solidified it for me, and I said, I'm out. And, then it all just, I can't speak for the others, but, it all sort of unfolded. And, mate, to be honest with you, it was pretty sad. Mate, it was very sad, to be honest, to see it all go the way it did. And,
yeah, I mean,
that was pretty hard.
It is, and I can relate to that somewhat, because I was only speaking to Shannon the other day, my partner, and said, the one thing about motorsport is what we're getting to do is so unique and special that when we're older and not involved in the sport anymore, we should reflect on our time in the sport as the greatest time of our life. And I think it's really sad. And I was actually sad for her because she doesn't look back in a positive light on her time there and the way, and particularly the last sort of 6 or 8 months. It was just, really tough for her. And that is a shame. I think it's sad because there was a period there she was coming home and was like telling me all about you guys and was, working with Lyndon, and she's now moved to Coke as well, works there. But there was relationships that were obviously very special because you got someone like Brodie who was prepared to open up to both of you, which means you're not just a sponsor anymore, you're becoming friends with everyone. Yeah. And for it to fall apart, it is sad because we should all definitely look back. And if you were lucky enough to win a championship, I said to her like that, I just felt bad because I'm like, you should be telling our kids one day that, Mum did this thing. It's pretty cool, but just doesn't talk about it.
I think the hard part with it all. I mean, I had a sort of similar experience to Steve, but I loved my time at Erebus. Betty was great to me. I think at the end of the day, Barry was fantastic.
Yep.
Some of I look back with just so much fond memories. Winning, Will winning that race at Eastern Creek, and with J-Dub and SVG behind him, and his first race win. Just very fond of that. Winning the championship. I think the whole thing was just messy for everybody. I look back in hindsight now and think, everyone's got a different perspective and different view on it, from Shannon and Steve and Barry and Betty and everybody. I think it was just a bit of a tragic mess, to be honest. I don't think anybody, let's say, won out of it. Everybody lost. Yeah. And I know for me, I just couldn't watch a race for 6 months. I was upset. I wouldn't say I was angry. just uninformed and probably not knowing. You know, like that car was stickered up, ready to go.
Yeah.
2 days prior, I could show you the photos.
I had seen it.
It was
I had Shannon.
Shannon, the team,
Uniforms
Barry,
were done. Everything was
mate,
made.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. We just got wind of what was happening, rightly or wrongly, just probably white noise. You know, you have to make a decision. And we just made a decision as a big company. We just can't be associated with, and I think everyone had their story. You know, Betty and Barry have told their story.
Yeah.
Brody was silent for contractual reasons and whatnot. And then there was the press and the media and the social media, which I think was pretty horrific. And I think I actually really deeply feel for Barry and Betty. They went through, no one should go through that. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and they copped a shitload of just slagging. I mean, how they survived it, I give them full credit, to be honest with you, to still be in the sport and to hang tough together, rightly or wrongly, right? Not making any judgment, but they really copped it on a social media at a level, like, you know, we've all got it. You get one or two bad comments about yourself and, oh, that's not real good.
You feel shit.
They copped it for months and months and months. Like, so whatever happened, so for us, we pulled our sponsorship not because of anything other than there's all the noise and the rumours, and we just didn't want to be involved in that. We just couldn't take the risk that what's right, what's wrong. I was personally gutted by it. I really like Barry. I really like Betty. I think they're great stewards in motor racing. Other people have one view. Other people have another view again. And, yeah, Barry's a bit rough around the gills and says a few things. He's probably of an 80s style.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not.
Well, he came from LP, didn't he? Like
correct.
He grew
correct.
up.
Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't. The only thing is, it doesn't justify. Like, I mean, I've had chats with Barry.
No.
And I do. I mean, I look at the social media backlash, and I mean, personally, I probably disagree on that because I don't see any issue with it. I think you know, the situation is what it was, and having spoken to them, and you have to be very careful because the moment I say something that is there's going to be a letter coming my way again, but it's not something. I think, you know, the situation was you know, bad for everyone. And that was one of the consequences, I guess, of it. And unfortunately, social media just is that. You know, I've had Scotty Mack on the pod today, and I opened my mouth at one point and I got threats because I realised just how many fans Scotty Mack has.
He had more than you, that's for sure.
I picked a fight with the wrong guy, and I look back at that and I'm like, well, I had to deal with the consequences there. And,
well,
you know,
I think Scotty too, look, and this is probably, if you take that situation and just park it for a sec.
Yeah.
I think there's a lesson in the sport that probably I've struggled with, and I personally don't think the sport handled it real well. Mate, I come from a world, and you can look at what happened with Red Bull or in the Formula One team or whatever, but mate, there's a way to deal with those things, and the simple way is that people have got a grievance, whatever the grievance may be. You go into a room, you get to say your piece, someone has a look at it, someone makes a determination, and even if you found out one person's done something wrong or one person hasn't done something wrong, whatever it is, you just deal with it.
Yeah.
If there's a penalty, you give someone a penalty. If there's no penalty or there's nothing to find, you play on, but you bring it together, you put it together, you do it not in public, but you do it in private. You go and resolve it. There's an outcome, and you move forward. I think with that, which really blew my mind, is everyone kept saying, oh, there's nothing we can do, it's all out there, and it just dragged on and on and on. And I think that if someone had taken it from day one, and if they'd just taken it offline, resolved it, and came to a conclusion, whatever it would be, we all play on and move on.
There was no kind of, there was no investigation, so then there was no end.
The funny part, life is full of sliding door moments.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, in my 40-year plus career, I can look at some of the things that I've done very, very well out of and go, yeah, I really executed them well, but the opportunity came up from luck.
Yep.
So if you cascade that through, we'd sort of withdrawn our sponsorship. And I went through a grieving process for that. I genuinely, they just won the championship. I was super excited. I always got on well with Barry, and I still do today. I like Barry. And I hear all the comments and this, that, and the other, but you can only judge with what's in front of you. I never saw any of the other stuff that everybody talks about. I saw, he's been very good to me. And I spoke to him today on the pit wall, actually. He was up there, seeing his car at the front. It was good.
Yeah, Jack actually missed that. He did a good job. I think he got turned, though. And he was like fourth at the time.
In any case, So I'm sitting there and I'm going through this grieving process, dirty as all hell, watching football. I'm not watching any motor race. I'm not going to any races. That's it. I was really upset.
It's tough too being a Manly fan, mate, too.
Yeah.
Probably losing more games than winning, eh? I'm a Storm supporter. Sorry, guys.
We're coming back this year. This year. Did you see that first round? Storm and Manly got to be the favourites. Anyway, Steve was similar. So we sort of said, look, bugger it. We're not going to any races.
Detox from it.
Yeah. And then Will called and said, I'm thinking about doing this NASCAR race.
Yeah.
I rang up Buggerlokes here and said, what do you reckon? He said, oh, well, if you're in, I'm in. I said, righto, I'm in. Righto, let's go. And it was overseas. So we actually ended up taking Jack Perkins ourselves, flew up there, did it in, where was it? Sonoma.
Sonoma.
Yeah.
And drank some nice wines and went to the French Laundry and had a great bloody time. And that's how we met Roland. And we actually, believe it or not, were thinking about doing a one car very similar to what Blanchard's did. So I'd run Barclay and said to Barclay, any chance we can buy one of your wrecks? Didn't get anywhere with that, so it wasn't a yes or wasn't a no, but basically we'd worked it out what the budget was going to cost us, $3-4 million a car. We had it all sort of, Jack was going to run it. It was, so by the time we landed, right, that's what we're doing. And then
so Jack Perkins was going to run a single car team for you guys.
Yeah.
That was where it was going to go.
He would do a good job of that.
That's
be great at
That's
it,
what the chatter was, and that's what we were doing. And so I run Barclay. Remember that? We were walking to the track and said, Barclay, can I buy one of those things? Or can you rent it to us so we can do something? And anyway, right, let me think about it. And then we went out to Sonoma and Jack said, Roland's floating around. Do you want to meet Roland? I'd never met him before. Had you met him before?
I'd met him, but I met him actually on the night of the victory of when we won the championship.
Right.
I ended up getting in an Uber, coincidentally sharing an Uber, and the bloke I ended up sharing the Uber with was Roland.
12 sherbets deep, that would have been good.
Oh, mate, we're both, I think, 12 sherbets deep.
So that's how it all came out. We met him for coffee. I remember it, and I said, we've got this idea. What do you think? You've been around, you know the game. Give us an idea. One car team, similar to what the Blanchards did with the Coolrite car, the blue Coolrite car. They were running a single car, I think, for Slade, I think, by memory.
Yeah, I think it was.
So he said, that's how it all sort of, I think you make a go of it. I said, look, I know we're not going to win. We might get some podiums or whatever, but, we'll middle pack, be a lot of fun, etc. And then we went out for dinner that night, and Roland texts, obviously, Jack, and said, do you want to have coffee again tomorrow? Great. What do you think, boys? Yeah, great idea. So we had coffee. And Ever the salesman said, I remember his exact words where he said, mate, that's a really good idea you've got, but, like running around 10 or 12, like knowing you guys, the short time that I do, picking your personality, it's not really going to give you a woody, is it? We looked at each other and said, no, probably not actually. So I've got another idea for you. Jess possibly could be looking at selling her 30% stake. And then we met Jess over that weekend.
He's an operator.
Yeah, and that's how it all sort of came about. So we'd gone from running the single car wreck to that's gone. Sorry, Jack, you're now out of a job. You're running
back to restoring cars.
Yeah,
champ.
correct. But don't worry, we'll run a Super 2. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
We're negotiating this stake. So we're all excited. We've got on the plane, come back home. The ups and downs of all this thing. Landed in Australia. I've told Katie, my wife, I've got this stake. This is great. I think it's going to be all right. It's fantastic. Perfect for us. The winning team, number one, Red Bull, blah, blah, blah. And then I get this text from Jess. Oh, look, we've got somebody that, believe it or not, from when we spoke to you.
Of course they do.
No, it was actually real. We tried
Just driving the price up.
Trust me, we were skeptics like you were. Don't worry about that. We've dealt with a few car salesmen before in our time, and especially in my business, investment banking, they're full of bloody, snakes and ladders. And I went into a funk for 24 hours because we had this stake, best team, unbelievable too. I've got someone that I've actually signed, a heads of agreement with. Right. I think we've got to give them first option. So we're trying to work out who it was, and we obviously can't divulge it here, but it's probably someone well known to everybody on this podcast. And anyway, they couldn't perform. And so Roland actually had sent a very cryptical text to me that sort of said, hang tight, let's just see if this guy can perform. I can't remember the exact words, but reading between it was like, I don't think they're going to perform.
And by perform, you mean pay up?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And anyway, I rang Steve, said, 3 days later, mate, we're back on. This is unbelievable. I said, mate, the money will be in the solicitor's trust account in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole thing came about.
It is such a good story. And
I love that.
Even your story, both of you, to go through Erebus and have a championship win and you've met all these great people. And it is good to hear that you're still mates with Barry. Yeah. And you look back, and even for me, there's perspective there that actually, for Shannon too, I'm like, there are really good things. You often just remember those bad things, but look what's come from it.
Well,
it's amazing.
The irony, sorry,
you're right,
to hog the limelight. If we hadn't, if there hadn't been that fallout,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be part owners of Triple Eight Race Engineering. We just wouldn't be here.
After every storm
it's
comes a rainbow.
It's unbelievable.
And everything does happen for a reason, good or bad, doesn't it,
I think
really?
James Courtney always says to us, mate, you blokes owe Brody Kostecki a really nice steak dinner.
Yeah, he's probably not wrong there.
That's it. I'll just say, Scotty, too, mate, even though we went through that tough time with Erebus, and as hard as this was, mate, to see them come back and win Bathurst last year, mate, was probably one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And mate, a little bit of a weird moment for us because we came second and third. By that stage, we were owners of the team. Mate, we were very excited. Our team was probably a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
Second, third, thought we could have probably won it, which that's no doubt. That's what we're there for. But really, mate, after it of, being through what we went through, and the highs and the lows of that, to see them come out of the ashes and win Bathurst last year, mate, they didn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
There's something about being beaten fair and
Oh,
square
mate,
that
look, that was just...
you just go, well, because I spoke to one of the mechanics after, and there was some stuff said in the garage there about me after the race. And I'm like, what? Like, I am stoked for them because I know how hard, particularly like Bradley Packham, for instance.
Yeah.
Like that guy, he works his ass off, and there's a number of people in there that do, and to win Bathurst, it's like, it must be the greatest feeling. I haven't got there yet, hopefully one day, but to come second and third to the cars that genuinely beat you because they're just better on the day, I think 100%. There's a way you can sleep at night and go, well, we gave that everything. It wasn't to be, and there was no like unlucky circumstance, or it was that was it.
It's actually, again, that's that sliding door moment, right? And sliding door moment for them. They'd been through so much grief.
Yeah.
To pony up and win Bathurst is, as you guys know, that's like, it's no small feat. There's drivers
and
like yourself that have gone their whole career and go, that's the holy grail.
Yep.
And like I personally was a bit gutted that we came second and third, like two cars. We were excited.
Yeah.
But I was genuinely excited for them. And the one thing with Barry, I think what I find, you look at the history of drivers that he's brought through, is actually extraordinary. Like Kostecki and
Picking talent.
Brown, the last two championship winners, they got their start and he picked them. Like he picked them, put them in the team. Nobody else did.
Yeah.
No other genius sort of said, we're going to pick Will, we're going to pick
Yeah.
Brody. He did. And they both won championships and one's won a bat. It's unbelievable. Like, so, from Barry's perspective, whatever he picks, get on Cam Murray or whoever it is that, he's picked.
Cooper Murray,
I should say.
Cam Murray,
Mark Scaife called him Cam Murray today too. But you're right. Like,
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Barry deserves a lot of ticks for that,
it's cool to see where it has led to for you guys. Now, there is, as everyone knows, there's a number of there's a few owners in Triple Eight, and one being Whincup, who we know what he brings to the team, and that's that competitive edge and race knowledge that he obviously has. Where do you guys see you fit in the team as owners and contributors, I guess, to where this place goes in the future?
Yeah, because for the listeners that may not know, you've got Jamie, Tony Quinn, and yourselves.
Yeah.
So it's a 30% stake, 30% stake with us, 30% with Jamie, 40% with Quinny.
Yeah.
But we treat each other as equal partners. Like everyone's got, like, the equity is really irrelevant.
Yeah. And Quinny, I'm sure, like, we haven't had him on yet, which will
He'd be good.
Yeah,
Mate,
and
Quinny's the best. But just to spend time and talk to Quinny, he's entertaining.
Yeah.
well,
on
it's lining it up so we can sit face to face like this, because this is why we talked about this last year, Steve, about doing it with Earl and yourself. But we were like, even Murph, we've put Murph off for like 6 months because I'm like, he said as well, he's like, I won't do it unless I can sit with you and actually have a beer and talk in person. And we want to do the same with Quinny. But what is it? What do you guys see as your contribution, I guess, to T8 now?
We all bring something different. Like, in fairness to Jamie, like, he's our CEO as well as owning a stake, so that's sort of a little bit harder for him.
Yep.
But he's there running the day-to-day business. And look, our job's to try and support him. Like, we're business people, so, we bring different skill sets in relation to how the business is run, how the business is operated. We look at things that perhaps they don't see, that we see. Like, one of the things that we've been talking about or trying to work on, is partnership relationships. There's so many things that we can bring to the table in our board structure. You can't not count Rex, who's TQ's right-hand man. So he's our new chairman. He took over from Roland. Like, you know, TQ and Rex have bought and sold, you know, many businesses.
Yeah.
But that's their story to tell. But, mate, you know, we're a group of business people supporting a bloke who's the greatest racing car driver of all time. And there's nothing that Jamie doesn't know about the racing car side of the business. And so collectively, we try and provide that support in relation to the business side where we can. We've all got different skills, and, you know, in the last week, and, you know, Earl can sort of tell that story, but, you know, in the last week we've had to shore up and secure some things inside the business. And, you know, Earl's been up and down with Jamie going through that process. Earl's you know, he's done more deals than most. You know, so he goes in and does all that, you know. Yeah, we've all got a role to play.
Yep.
And it's funny, but in fact, when we're all sitting in the room talking, there's not too much we disagree on. We all sort of come at things from the same level. We might, you know, talk about different experiences or different things, but collectively, we're all in this business to make money out of it. We love motorsport, but it's a business. We've invested into it, and we want to grow it and make it successful.
That's the engineering side, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, the business model. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was going to say, because it's not just a race team, right? Triple Eight, it's an engineering company as well. So maybe for those that don't know, I know you've got an aviation arm, is it, as well? So just can you shed some light on what the business actually does other than racing?
Yeah, look, I mean, we have a full engineering business. So historically, that engineering side used to do a lot of work in building supercars, supercar parts, and distributing and selling them to the other teams. With Gen 3, that all sort of got broken up. So that sort of the work became less than what it previously had been, but the infrastructure is there.
Yeah.
And it's very, very impressive. And it can do a lot of high-tech manufacturing, a lot of detail work, and we've got a plethora of high-quality staff who know how to do all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, recently, and, you know, people probably would have seen it, we've just done a collaboration piece with Just Autos. The Land Cruiser 300 series has a problem with lag, making some noise in the turbos, a few bits and pieces. Just Autos came to us. Our engineers have designed the solution, you know, developed the solution, and that's gone out, you know, to market now, and you know, that's sort of gone gangbusters and solved a problem for four-wheel drive enthusiasts who tow with them, you know, want to use them all. I'm not technical in that sense, but, you know, a great product that we've collaborated on and built a solution to. You know, we've done parts for airline companies. We've done a whole range of things. And we've got a sales guy who is out there working, looking for, you know, work where we can help with engineering. And as part of our business grows and things like that, we'd love to do some more collaboration work in the automotive space, you know, with cars and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
but I think it's using the expertise, and I think as a board, you know, we're looking at a number of acquisitions to buy and to bolt onto that. How does that work? You know, and again, you know, we've got a great 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, and like anything, these businesses typically are sustainable by sponsors and rich owners that put in the difference. We're very blessed with the sponsors that we have, but the engineering businesses are designed to obviously supplement
The race team.
the race team, and typically as guys that are sort of money guys that you know, buy and sell and put together, and 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
We're sort of sitting there saying it's got a great brand, it's a profitable business. How do we quadruple the size of it? How do we actually, and you're not going to just do that in the motorsport space. So how do you actually use the brand? And that's what we're all working towards. You know, Rex is our chairman. He took over from Roland in January. Super smart. It's Tony Quinn's business partner.
Yeah.
Super smart guy. And, you know, I think just between the sort of four of us, and Jamie's learning, right? Jamie hasn't been involved in business, albeit that he built and manufactured and started the two car wash businesses, which, you know, I think he's just recently sold. And he's a smart kid, you know, kept the real estate, sold the business. You know, he'll learn a lot from our experience as we're learning a lot from him on the car side.
Yeah.
You know, we're bothering him I am anyway, because I'm not you know, the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Just what's this mean? What's that mean? That's fantastic.
How big for you guys was the Ford deal? I know you're still representing GM this year till the end of the year, but obviously it's out now. You guys are switching over to Ford. How was that for you? Was that saying that
Huge.
super excited? Because
That's so huge.
as you say, you're trying to build the business. to me, Ford are just so huge in motorsport globally.
Yeah.
They're building a lot of race cars and things like that. Like, that must have been a pretty cool moment.
I think it was it was probably opportunistic, and that Ford had just been speared by Walkinshaw in terms of going to Toyota. That was one thing. So there was probably a window for them. They had capital, and they felt the one thing I know about this sport is it's full of money and it's full of egos. Right?
Yeah.
Normally most people lose money and the egos get burnt, but then someone else comes in and so from
Motorsport,
Ford's perspective, I think they lost somebody that they were very proud to announce a couple of years prior. And the discussions with us quickly illuminated to them, which we obviously knew from the beginning, they were taking out their biggest competitor. But park all of that commentary. From us, it was about, a long-term commitment. It was about funding. It was about having a joint shared passion for motorsport. And like all relationships, they just run their race after a period of time. And that's basically what happened to GM. It was a capital issue. It was a whole range of things that we just couldn't quite agree on. We had approaches from a couple of other manufacturers into T8 that obviously we can't mention who they are, but that actually made approaches. And so we thought, let's go and have a conversation with Ford. And just from the immediate conversation, so originally it was Jamie and I, and we had a hookup. It happened all very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. We had a hookup in the Adelaide round, actually. I think it was the very first video conference that we actually had. So it was very late in the piece.
Wow.
And we actually just gelled immediately. Their vision, our vision, what we wanted to do, what they wanted to do, their global motorsport capability, their commitment to Australia, second largest manufacturer in Australia, to Toyota being number one. Toyota coming in, they're competitives, so we want to compete. And then we hopped on a plane and, Jamie, myself, Dutto, JJ and Steve all flew up to North Carolina. I don't know when it was maybe early December. So it was like really happened very quickly. Met Mark Rushbrook and his team. Then we started having further chats and the engineers got into the technical stuff and, we talked the money and all of that sorts of things. And more important to us, quite frankly, was what else we could do outside Supercars. So if you go back to that business side, GM really didn't have much of an appetite to collaborate on road cars. They didn't really have an appetite to collaborate on a couple of other categories. Not that we saw anyway. Maybe they did and they just weren't talking to us or didn't want to talk to us. So but from our perspective, that's how it felt. Ford were like, we want to do Think. We want to do GG3. We got this, we got that. We want to be involved. And they did it with so much passion. And so we just got on very, very on. That's how it all came about. It wasn't a big long-winded thing. It was not like, that's really just the short and guts of it. Is that fair?
That's fair. I think I told you a story, like for all of us to leave the country and head overseas was a bit of a trick.
For no one to know.
For no one to know.
I was just thinking that you wouldn't want to check in at
it was very tight.
somewhere.
No, but what we
It was
did
getting
is
very tight.
we told everybody we're going over to look at simulators, right? So we were right into
You didn't tell me a story. I rang you once and you're like, I've got to go to the US to look at a simulator. And I was like, seems like an odd thing for you to be doing to go over there.
Surely
And everyone was double checking the story. Will would ring me. What are you going? Oh, we're going to simulate. And then he'd ring him. What do you think? Oh, we're going to go and see.
So when you say what do we all bring to the thing, one of the things I brought to the table was the fact that out of my previous life, I understand what it's like when you go somewhere, you've got to have a cover story. So before we left, we had a cover story. And it was simulation. It was really good. But I made even people sending me videos of simulators to look at and suggestions.
Well, James Courtney did, didn't he?
James Courtney, he sent us some stuff. Have a look at this. We're like, but I was...
You're like, it looks good.
We were actually having dinner one night and we just sort of... We were pretty excited about how everything was sounding. Obviously, there's no deal to say how everything was sounding. And Will rang me and, oh, mate, how's it all going? Anything you're looking at? What are you doing? And I'm like, what the fuck do you say?
Yeah. Well, we'd videoed. Jamie did they got like $8 million. They had 2 or 3 simulators up there, but Jamie hopped in this $8 million simulator. It was insane, unbelievable. Anyway, the technology was phenomenal. Jamie got in there and drove on. We videoed him. And then thought, this would be great. And then sort of thought, we can't post that. He's in a Ford. They'll pick it up within 1 minute. And it was good. So the Ford thing was awesome. And I think, again, for us, pretty easy because we really didn't have a connection with GM. We'd only been there for 6 months. And I think it's, to us, more about the brand of Triple Eight Race Engineering rather than GM or anybody else. for the team, Jamie included, it was really, really hard. It was very challenging. It was difficult difficult news. Jamie obviously had a lot of victories with them, had a lot of victories with Ford, I might add.
Yeah.
Excited on the commercial partnership side, all of that, and the future, which is what we were looking outward to. We were really looking at the future. That was what it was all about. But it came about very quickly. As a group, we're absolutely stoked with it. The team is stoked with it. It's obviously brought out a bit of behaviour in the last little bit, which you expect whenever. It's like getting divorced. I haven't been divorced, but if you ever did get divorced, I know plenty of mates that have.
Yeah.
It's all going to be amicable and we're going to be friendly, and next minute they're spitting and hissing at each other over the kettle and the couch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one thing just quickly I wanted to latch onto was that you mentioned there were other manufacturers that reached out. And I think it's great for the fans that are sceptical on supercars, because I hate seeing the comment that like supercars is dying. It's great to hear there's other manufacturers that are interested in entering the sport. So that's a positive, I think, for our sport, because there's a lot of positive out there. I think like a lot of good things out there, and
happy to,
it's not always negative.
Not now, but towards the end, I think you mentioned you want to have a bit about my shouting and race.
Yes,
give you my views on what I think. But Toyota, there's so many. You got to not read the social media so much, because a lot of people sitting out there that are very positive, and a lot of people that are negative. And the real facts is all in the data and the information. And I think if you just looked at just the symbolic nature of the deal that Supercars, I think Neil Crompton had an awful lot to do with it. It took him like 2 years to put it all together. And again, did it in the code of silence.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. Everyone's bagging the shit out of Super. It's going nowhere. The largest manufacturer in the country and one of the largest manufacturers in the world just chose our sport to actually come out and chose Walkinshaw and Dirty Racing, which is, I think, a wonderful pick. I think Ryan and the team will do an awesome job. Yep. Hopefully they pick a second team. But like, they saw something in it. So what are they seeing that maybe the everyday person's not? And it is in, they're looking at the data, they're looking at the growth. And it's a bit like the Friday night race, the first round, right? Like I got a million texts, this is boring, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. The crowd shit house, et cetera, et cetera. And I was one myself that looked at it quite naively and said, there's no crowd here. The numbers on the TV, we just had an owners meeting yesterday that they put up, were absolutely off the charts. There was no footy on that Friday night. The TV viewing audience was awesome. The mistake that probably Supercars made, if there was one, was probably they should have let free people come in. Now, that's easy to say in hindsight. They should have just opened the gate on a Friday night and said, anyway,
but you don't know you're getting the other end of it.
But look, that's easy now. And I think they know that too. So I'm repeating what they've actually already said themselves. So it's not that I'm a genius. But they should have opened the gate. The crowd would have been half okay if it was all free. But it wasn't for the live crowd. The TV audience, the viewing on Fox and KO, off the charts. Off the charts. First round, a bit of a boring race, but it was insane. And then obviously we had the great event on the Saturday night, which just, again, the viewing audience went through the...
Well, and they've backed it up today with that race on the Grand Prix circuit, and we are filming this Thursday, which they've just had the night race or the evening race, after whatever you'd call it, but unbelievable. So I think there's going to be some good stuff come out of this weekend, hopefully. Before we do get to your thoughts on Supercars and what we think we could improve here tonight and fix every problem there is, you mentioned the divorce and how that can go. There's a lot of speculation out there that RD is involved in some of the movements that are happening out of Triple Eight, and JJ being one of those. Whether he is or not involved, we don't really know. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think he's involved in it? And also, I have a question about JJ. Is there a non-compete or something like that in place? And also, even with Roland, because it wasn't that long ago that he was the chairman of the board, and it seems odd that he's so quickly out there advising for another team, and I mean, he's seen their advising, so he's effectively competing against you guys now.
Well, he was in the pits
How's that
today.
feel? He was in the pit set today, was he?
Yeah, of course.
So how's that feel? Yeah, and what are your thoughts?
He might have been there during the race, but I can tell you straight after the race, I saw him in there, and I said, you might have different views to me.
I probably have.
Let me go. No,
You go first, because it sounds like Steve's could be a little bit juicier.
You can brew for 5, Steve.
I might get you a beer and then we'll come back to you, all right?
I think... Look, I'm pretty personally all relaxed about it. I've seen this a million times in business, and it's an emotional thing. I'm the is Roland ringing people, not ringing people? I don't know. He's going to tell us that he isn't. 95% of people are in prison are all innocent if you ask them. That doesn't mean that he is or he isn't, right? So I don't know that. He's told me that he's not. I take him at his word. But what he has said is he is advising GM. And I think, again, everyone tries to talk a vernacular and a spin. I'm advising GM to keep them in the sport, is what I've been told multiple times, and many other people have as well. Whether, in fact, they're ever leaving the sport, I'm not actually sure they were, to be honest with you. But that's okay. He's got a close association with them, no question about it. Very talented individual, and clearly, without a doubt, the number one race car owner in the history of this sport in Australia. No question. He knows how to win. He knows what to do. Whether he can do that as a consultant to Premier, if they're the homologation team, and Peter is yet to be seen. I think that's a bit different to actually owning a team and being, balls to the wall 7 days a week, 24/7, as to being a consultant. Just not sure you could get the same success. But I think from our side, I think, Quinny said on the weekend, probably GM were caught napping. If they were looking after their partners, i.e. ourselves, we probably wouldn't have gone. And the US, we is upset that, we went and that Australia was probably a bit asleep. Roland's got a close association, so I think for him to depart from us, I think it was healthy for us that he departed from Triple Eight. One, because of the Ford scenario. I think there was a brand conflict.
Yep.
And, he's a very strong, powerful guy, and to be a owner and then not be an owner, would he be capable of chairing the business and giving us help and direction? 100%. Like, he's a skilled guy. But we probably didn't need that. We got enough there. And I think it was a good way to leave. I think the difficulty was in the last week, all the staff have been called, drivers have been called.
Drivers as well?
Yeah. By GM, right? Now, as I said to Roland, well, you've told us 5 times you're advising GM.
Yeah.
Now, he would say, well, I advise them not to ring. I don't know. How would you know? And I'll have a coffee with him tomorrow. I'm having a coffee. Today's Thursday, having a coffee with him tomorrow. And I like him a lot. It's for us, what we did is just straight away, a lot of the staff were put off by that, by GM calling and all the rumours that it could be RD. So let's say it's not. Take him at his word, and that's what you need to do.
Yep.
They were put off by all of it. The rumours, there's a really tight group there at a leadership level. I think JJ leaving, to be frank, that had been discussed for 12 months. So when we bought in, Roland was very clear from the very beginning, your number one flight risk is JJ. Not because he's anti-T8, because he's got a high stimulation, supercars he's grown a bit bored with, and that's the reason why he had a 3 or 5 year sabbatical and went to Porsche in Germany.
Yeah.
So we always knew that. The one great thing is, Scotty, the depth in T8 is deep.
Yep.
What was really interesting with JJ, so with JJ resigning, 2 things happened. The phone just lit up.
Yeah.
So we're getting calls from engineers globally, internationally, in Australia, from other teams. Is there an opportunity to come to you guys? Blah, 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 blah. So, one door closes, another one opens. And it was because we were T8 and winning ways and all those things. And, again, what was unsavoury, and I think bad form, we're the homologation team for GM presently until the end of the year. For GM to physically, actually, we're partners, to be ringing the drivers and saying, can you get out of your contract? Is it possible? Or
so they're trying to get the drivers out early.
Well, I don't know. They didn't. There wasn't really a lot of discussion because the drivers quickly rung us and said, "We're going nowhere. We've got no interest in having a conversation." They never rung up and said, "Oh, you need to pay us more money." They're contracted till the end of 26.
Yeah.
And again, we're pretty savvy guys too. We'll talk about your contracts later, not now. It's like, we're not like, Erebus, and if you're unhappy, you can leave. Or Manly have done that same thing. For me, a contract's a contract. That's why you actually sign the thing right at the very beginning. Go and do your job. That's what you get paid for. When your contract's up, we'll have a chat about it. And if we're not for you, you go. And if we're for you, we'll pay you. So just before I hand over, Grumblebum here, he'll have to say. So I think there was a great opportunity. I think, again, it never rattled anybody. It wasn't, JJ let us know he was leaving a week ago. The calls all of a sudden then, a lot of the staff started coming forward saying, I've just had a call. And
when you say to go, when they're getting these offers, I guess, not formal, but where are they going to, though? Is this to go to Premier as a homologation team, or who's GM asking them to go to? Like, where are they saying?
I think the drivers was there and GM advising as the homologation manufacturer to the new team that goes. So you'll be advising the new team. Okay. There was a couple of offers made to actually go to Premier, or indications, we've got an interest, come and talk to us. They all came straight away to us. So what we did on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we obviously got one of my lawyers, flew up. We met with all the staff. We had one-on-ones. And the really shitty part about it, we actually were going to upgrade everybody's contracts and increase their remuneration as a good news story of, hey, we've got a great long-term partnership with Ford. We want to do this. We want clear line of sight, clear vision. Are you committed? Sign on the dotted line. It's not just like it's a binding contract. You need to understand it, but here's what we're prepared to give in return. So, and we've got lots of things that we want to roll out at Triple Eight with Ford over the next 12 months. So we want a commitment. We didn't want to be looking over our shoulder. This really just brought it forward. And everybody, every single person, not one person, actually negotiated, said, I want more money. Every one of them said, we're not leaving. We're here. From Peter Ringwood, who we just promoted, obviously, to the head tech, Dado, Chris Gu, he got an approach by another team actually 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Well,
I had heard that DJR had offered him big money to go there.
Correct.
And the one thing, and I think Gooey is unbelievable. Like, I actually have been, mates with him since 2012, and there's a lot of guys that I have kept relationships with, and he's one of the guys I speak highly of. But I know that, like, one thing as well that I think a lot of the guys would know is they're trying to disrupt as much as attract new staff, I reckon, because you've got, the top of the tree, and if you can pull some staff out of them, you're still going to have the growing pains, but it might hurt them. I reckon there's probably an element of that as well, where they're trying to get them out.
I think the difficulty, I think that's right. And look, that's all business.
Yeah, it's competition. It's competition. Take them out of the knees.
Listen, you go from the left to the right. In our business, in the investment banking business, happens every day. Those are on multi-million-dollar bloody paid packets, and everyone's the next best superhero, and there's always someone that wants to pay them more to get them. So I think for us, what it did for us, it galvanised our group very much. Like, everyone came forward, which was awesome. You can see it with the victory today. Nobody flinched. Everyone was very calm. Great leadership by the leadership team, led by Jamie. Jamie's done a phenomenal job through all of this. Phenomenal job. And I think in the last 8 months, he's grown enormously as the CEO of our business.
Yeah.
Not only is he a great driver and gives the drivers just great guidance, as you would know, and direction and the team, but, he's really grown. I think from JJ's point of view, what'll be interesting to see how it all plays out is, JJ has a 6-month notice period and he has a 6-month non-compete.
So it's 12 months effectively he's on the bench.
And like everybody sort of talks the talk, they're not buying it. Well, let me tell you, I'm actually in the restriction business. Trust me, all of our contracts have non-competes, all of those things.
Right.
Everyone's a bush lawyer. Oh, they don't stack up. Trust me, they stack up.
Yeah.
If they're not too punitive.
Especially in our industry.
Especially with someone at that level
based.
with the tech. 6-month non-compete is not restrictive. There's plenty of precedents in court. And that's all laws. And as we've said to people, it's okay. We can agree to disagree. You don't think it's right. I think it's right. That's what courts are for. Let the judge make the decision. We're okay with that. We hope it doesn't get to that. But at the end of the day, what's burnt us up a little bit is our homologation partner making outgoing calls. And we just don't think that's cricket.
Earl, with that, mate, if someone were to break a contract, like a gardening leave clause or a non-compete, what's the punishment? Like, is it a monetary thing, or how does it? Or
I think first of all, you go and get an interim injunction.
Yeah.
No big deal. It costs $50,000 to $100,000. You get your lawyer, you go straight to the court.
Yeah.
Show them the contract. Contract's binding. We've already had a QC's opinion on it, so we're not weren't brought down in the last shower.
Yeah.
You look at it. Yeah, that's pretty solid. You get your internal lawyer to look at it. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Send it off, get a QC's opinion. Yeah, that's rock solid.
Yeah.
And it's all, law is all based on precedent, other court actions. And you go to court, you get an interim injunction that stops that person from doing what they should be doing. Most people don't do it because they're afraid to spend the 50 to 100 grand.
Yeah.
There's a few rich blokes that own this team, and we don't mind a scrap either. So
I love that. I love that. It's like, we don't want to scrap, and we've got some coin too. So.
We need rivalries. The drivers won't do it for us. So
team owners.
Well, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But when people we don't think are doing the right thing, then you have to stand up for yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Shell ringing Chris Gu, that's fair game. That's no problem with that. That's no problem. We're not partners with them.
Yeah.
So us calling them to try to get some of their stuff, that's okay.
Yeah.
We're actually partners with GM. We're the homologation team.
And they really should be trying to make this transition take as long as physically possible to make it easier on them. I think doing this anyway.
But you know what? They're a global organisation. They're fantastic. And like big global firms, they always think, we can beat the small guy. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. And And, somehow we're going to shiver in our boots that we get a lawyer. Like, there's only 6 top law firms in Australia. They'll use one, we'll use one, and
It's good for the fans, though, because GM's bringing the fight, which is awesome.
Fingers crossed. The great outcome with all this? The great outcome with this is GM have actually stepped up, which in a lot of the teams, they haven't really helped. They've given them a few grills and a few bits and pieces. And there's sting in their tail. And they want to compete. They want to be in the sport. They clearly want to be in the sport. I hope Roland is a consultant to them, which is, what he said and a number of other people. But I hope he is, because no better person could do it. And he'll help the teams win. There's no doubt.
How do you feel about this, Steve? Because I mean, I know you want
easy, big fella.
but RD is someone that was in the bunker with T8 not that long ago, and now I think and I know RD really well, and he's not going to mind me saying this because he knows how competitive he is, and he's going to be out there trying to take you out at your knees if this is true. Because I know, like, as a driver or any of us, we all want to do the same. Like, if my best mate's in front of me at the end of the Bathurst 1000, I'm taking him out to win the thing, and so this fight is being brought to you, I guess, with GM and everything in a positive way. I don't mean like in a negative fight, but this battle. And I love it because we're trying to say, drivers, we need rivalries, and we want people to say what they think. And how do you feel about what's out there at the moment?
Well, I think, I suppose foundationally, the thing that I don't like about it, and I will say Roland's been fairly upfront about about him trying to keep GM in the sport and helping.
Yeah.
So, mate, he rang me. I was in Melbourne. RD rang me and said, "Oh, mate, you to go in that direction. I've got the GM Alliance. That's where I'm at. Mate, I'm going to try and help keep him in the sport and all that," which I'm really cool about. There's no drama with that at all. However, I personally believe that I don't know of any other teams that are getting approached like we are. RD came from our team. I certainly was provided information that before all this unfolded, that this is what's likely to occur, and it was bang, bang, bang. They're going to get JJ, Lounsey will go, they're going to do this, going to do that. So, we spoke about it, we're prepared for it. It wasn't like it was a rude shock. But for me, mate, we bought our stake off Roland. Like, as we talked about the story earlier, we bought the stake off him. Mate, he said he's not going to compete against us. He's got the tattoo. Mate, it's his baby. We've got nothing to fear from that. He was our chairman not that long ago advising us across all of this. I just think, like, go knock off people from somewhere else, like, don't come after us. And, mate, and like I said, if Shell do it, and even if Pete Zibris did it from Premier, mate, he's entitled to. But it is a sour pill for me to swallow. And, mate, I look up to RD. Like, what he knows about motorsport, I just dream of knowing. Mate, we went to Japan with him, spent days with him, mate. I loved hearing his stories. I loved doing that. So I suppose for me, personally, I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that that's where we find ourselves. I don't mind him looking at, I think it's really important, mate. None of us want to lose GM out of the sport. I think Earl made a really good point, mate. They've stepped up and thought, you know what? We've probably been caught napping here. We probably haven't invested, or we've probably taken it for granted.
I don't think they're ever going anywhere, right? Like, there's a spin getting told.
Yeah.
Oh, we've saved them. And listen, they weren't going. I haven't heard from anybody.
Well, I had a 2-minute conversation with them at Sydney, and they were like, there's no way we're leaving. Like, we this is as much, and this is what we've said on the last 2 or 3 podcasts. We've actually, because I liked it, that they said, it's not, people in the comment section are always there. The first thing they latch onto is, well, they're not selling Camaros, so why are they in the sport? Red Bull don't sell supercars either, but it's a branding and marketing exercise, and also as competitors, as a manufacturing. We
didn't sell Sierras or the Mustang that wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. I think.
Well, for Formula One don't sell that. Ferrari don't sell Formula One cars, and that's where GM are actually like, no, we want to be here as brands that support the 100%. Sport and market our brand to be the best brand, and people will buy. And who knows what comes in the next few years either? They might release here in Australia.
Exactly.
There could be and that's So I don't think you can keep latching onto that anymore.
No, and I just think at the end of the day, look, they've had a bit of a grab. As also, mate, no one wants to go anywhere. Like, it
hasn't worked. Yeah. But I think your point's a good one. Maybe it's been done from a disruption. And it's like a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get divorced and one of the partners is not allowing you to see the kids. That's your payback. I'm going to pay back for you for leaving or whatever it might be. Yeah. And this is the same probably, you know what I mean? And it'll work itself out.
RD owes me a phone call. He rang Earl and he's going to have a coffee with Earl. Mate, we're 15% stake each. That's our 30%. I didn't get a phone call.
Yeah.
So, mate.
He knows you got the shits, mate. He's going to know by probably Monday when we launch this bad boy too.
Mate, but I don't mind that either. I'm not scared, mate. We look funny.
Mate, this bloke here's, buddy, he was the chief investigator for Ivan Milat. He's told more stories of criminals and bullshitters and lies in his whole life. Like he's the master of being able to read through. If you spend some time with him.
Read through the bullshit.
Yeah. Read
Mate,
through.
I did text RD and said you two are coming on, so there's an opportunity to come back, and I sent him a pair of boxing gloves. And
we're going to host a celebrity boxing match. So
what you should do is get the three of us on.
Oh, that's right.
See, that would be good.
We're going to put that to him. Don't worry about that.
But mate, in short, like in reality is, I'm a little bit disappointed. But in joke, mate, look, we were at the pits today, and Jess and Chris were there from Chev.
Yep.
And they're like, "Oh man, sorry." We're like, "Mate, well, don't be sorry. We're loving it." Like it's all good. It's just
Listen,
sport.
It's like going for a swim in the ocean, right? You want to swim in a lake, it's flat. You want to go out in the surf, yes, there's a few dumpers.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a good wave, sometimes you don't. It's all
good.
okay. And as they say, cowboys don't cry, especially in front of their horse. It's okay. So all of us need to sit here and just take a couple of deep breaths. So even getting back to, contractual obligations. We have a contract.
Yeah.
We'll decide whether we want to enforce it, but it's in our favour. And why would we enforce it? Maybe we'd enforce it because of some of the bad behaviour, and that's for ringing our drivers. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't. People will ring us. I'm sure, Supercars will ring and say, "Oh, it's bad for the sport. What are you doing? Let them go." Well, we signed it's a commercial decision between us and an employee that's chosen to leave. And it's in the contract for a reason. If it wasn't meant to be in the contract, then it wouldn't be. Yeah. So maybe GM should have thought that through, or JJ should have. And he's a fine person, and maybe he is the person in the middle, but that's okay. It's not the first time. We're all big boys, and we'll see how it all plays out. It'll be fun.
I'd argue it's good for the sport. We're here talking about it, which is always a positive.
No, look, it is, mate. And look, I think too, like, mate, Earl went up, we signed all the people over, but no one wants to go anywhere. But, mate, we've got a really, really exciting program ahead of us in the next few years that's going to be fantastic for our team.
It's huge.
Everyone's excited about it. So it's not all about the money and the ringing this and ringing that. And look, mate, no offence to anybody else, but, mate, I rang you one day and said, "Oh, would you, go and drive for a team?" And you went, "I wouldn't drive for that team," because why would I leave Triple Eight to do something like that? Of course you wouldn't do it, there's sure you can offer people a little bit of money, but a lot of the people in this sport, mate, are in it because they love it. And they're passionate about it.
And we want to be competitive. Like the job that, when you mentioned to me, it was the full-time thing. And it's like, there's no way I'd rather turn up to 2 weeks a year with a chance of a result than 12 but the thing that, just quickly, I wanted to actually, the engine program, because that surprised me. I really did think, we had a big chat about the engine program on the pod, and I thought from a Supercars perspective, to be honest, it almost makes sense that everyone's got the same engine builder, because there's no like an engine builder doesn't care which block wins. He's going to put the same effort into all of them, and it makes them even. I thought it was an odd call that this has happened, and it's now going to. I've heard that GM, pretty good, has said no way to this and upped their investment there to make sure that this has happened. But where does it leave you guys with the Ford engine program now? What's that look like?
Well, Joby, Scotty, just step back one step, right, with KRE. From the day we did this deal with Ford, we knew there was a strong chance that could occur, right? More than likely that was going to occur.
Right.
That set off a chain in motion, right? So the engine is the catalyst for most of the things that have occurred, because at the end of the day, Kenny's an engine builder, a fantastic engine builder. He's someone who's had a relationship with this team for a long, long time. We couldn't move sideways without at least offering to take him. It makes good commercial sense in our opinion to do it, but in the event, we knew that there'd be a lot of objection to it.
Yeah.
The problem was, Kenny builds engines, we provide the technical support. So if you took Kenny away as an exclusive deal, they needed someone
to do the technical support,
which is where JJ comes from, right? And there's no problem with that. Look, mate, there's no hard feelings, certainly with us and Kenny. Like, he's a fantastic person. And no hard feelings realistically about, them finding someone to give him technical support. Like, makes perfect sense, but that's what
and a better guy you won't find. Like, JJ is going to spend a portion of his time in GT3 in the United States, contracted to GM apparently, and then going to help with the engine side and the homologation.
Yep.
Phenomenal guy. He was like intricately involved in that with Peter Ringwood from our team as well. A better guy you won't find. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, if you look at the other GM teams, there's a lot of intellectual horsepower in there. If you look at Brad Jones, he's been around the sport for a long time, and like that guy can bloody build and engineer cars. I think Barry, like, unbelievable. Like, you just have to look at some of the stats that he's won on, you know what I mean, as a sort of team.
Yeah.
And, you know, you look at Matt Stone, probably a little bit underfunded. They punch well above their weight. Like, that guy knows how to build cars. And
he's got the knowledge from Jimmy, his old man, as well. He's been around for 100 days. So
between them, they'll be able to cobble it together.
Yeah.
I think Roland, you know, if you believe the rumours, it's going to Premier, and Roland's sort of, you know, behind that. And, you know, everyone, you know, I think is probably of that belief that, yeah, that's fine. They haven't gone overly well as a team if you look at results, although, you know, bloody Peter's put everything into it, as frustratingly so as I reckon it would be for him.
Yeah.
He's put millions and millions of dollars into it, and that guy's a winner.
Yep.
You know, Peter Everest is a winner. I got no doubt that team at some point is going to win. With Roland, without Roland, Peter will put the magic pudding together. He's a winner in business. He's a winner in what he did with drags, and he's put too much into this thing not to come out the other end. So I think, you know, to have someone there as like Roland as an advisor to the homologation team, I think is fantastic for GM. It'll be fantastic for the GM teams and fantastic for GM. And to have someone of the quality of JJ helping and advising, absolutely, you know, it's in great hands. For us, as Steve said, we're business people, right? So the first thing you do in business whenever you do something like this is you look at the front door. That's very exciting. But let's look at the back door. What could go wrong? And so for us, we were always running a dual program. One was bringing the engine program in-house. The other was KRE. We always knew that some of the owners would arc up, you know, like Ryan did. He's got his view. We think that probably a little bit like you, putting it all, Jamie's very much of the strong view, and he expressed it.
Just everyone should.
Well, it's economies of scales too. If you put it all under the one roof, it lowers the cost of the engines, which what everyone's trying to do.
it's also quality control too, because we touched on one of our shows. Yep, economy of scale, it saves money for everyone, but also, one, it stops all the background bullshit talk about parity and stuff like that. It's coming out of the same shop.
Yeah.
They don't care, as you said, which block wins. Quality control, because they need that business owner needs all those cars to be reliable, those engines to be reliable. So I thought, like you guys are saying, that it would make sense, but obviously with Toyota going down the route they're going to go. And
Well, then I had heard that, Craig Haystead, whether true or not, is building the Toyota engine, which is an odd one because I thought Walkinshaw would be doing that out of their own shop. But so the Ford program, is that something you're looking at taking in-house then?
Yeah, well, I think it was Jamie announced it yesterday, but we had been planning for it from January. So the moment we made it, we were running a dual process. We thought that there was a possibility that Supercars could have objected to us doing it. GM could have objected to it, and Kenny could have as well. Kenny originally said, yes, I'd be keen for it, but let's see what our other stakeholders feel. And we always felt that, you know, it could go that he sticks with GM, or GM puts pressure on, or all those sorts of things. So we ran exactly the same program, right? What's it look like in-house? Who do we need? What do we need to get? And interestingly, I think Jamie made a statement yesterday, made an announcement about we're bringing it in-house, even though we've been planning it for 6 weeks. Right. And again, the phone lit up. You know, next minute there's 30 texts coming in from bloody engine people all around the world. You know, is there an opportunity? We want to be involved. And that's, I think, because of Triple Eight's race enginering's history. So
the reputation you guys have globally, as you said, is you'd be mad not to. And we chatted about it before you guys came in. I said, I didn't know that you guys had announced it was in house, but I said they'd be mad not to, because, as you said, you can just go through the Rolodex of the best engine builders in the world, and if you pick 5 of them, probably most of them are going to say, I'm open to this, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
And you do it in-house.
Peter Ringwood was basically doing all the mapping anyway.
Yeah.
With Kenny or KRE. You know, I think it'd be fine. He probably knows more about it than me. I can only go by the confidence, and when I speak to guys like Dutto, you know, who's fantastic, and you know, Gooey, Chris, and what do you think? And Jamie, who the one thing with Jamie, as you would know, working the team, we're very blessed to have probably, if he's not the greatest of all time, he's in the top 3 advising and helping the drivers. He can speak to them from a level that nobody else can in pit lane, I don't believe. Any of the other team owners, he can actually pull Will or Brock or yourself and say, mate, I've been there, done it. And he's modern and relevant, like he's still racing and just as competitive. So when you look at a guy like that and say, what do you think? Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So they're rock solid.
I think that's exciting. Like,
And you know,
Yeah, it
Jamie,
is.
Jamie's honest to a T, mate. Like
Yeah.
if you ask Jamie a question, you're getting an honest answer.
Yeah.
There's no black and white.
Yeah.
It's either we can or we can't. And he says we can, we can.
he doesn't seem like a bullshitter to me.
No, he's
Like,
definitely
No,
I
mate.
don't know him well at all, but from
Honest
the
to a
side,
T, mate.
He
Honest
seems
to
like
a
a
T.
straight shooter. So
No,
Yep.
there's one thing with Jamie, and in all of our dealings, absolutely straight as a gun barrel.
It's really enjoyable to chat to you guys it's a totally different conversation than we've normally had. And hopefully we've said
I'm
this about
loving it.
Ryan's story as well. Like you probably feel like we're grilling you here. We have so many questions, but
No.
it'd be great to have other, because obviously I'm exposed to you guys and it was an easy conversation to ask, can you come on the pod? It'd be great to have other teams as well and get their perspective on
They should.
the lay of the land
Like, I think
because
guys
it's
like
so
Matt Stone,
educational.
who, I don't know, what's the involvement with his
Yeah.
uncle and his father? Are they undercapitalised? How do they actually do so good? Like, they won races in the last couple of years. They're competitive.
Just
They
got a
were-
Cam Hill was
today.
third
Cam
today
Hill was
behind
third.
Erebus.
How strong was that?
Unbelievable.
Like, incredible. So, and you sit there and you go, they got some smart brains,
Yeah.
led by him. He's probably half of it, under the hood, doing unbelievable work.
Yeah.
Unbelievable work.
Paul Forger, who I think's a great engineer too. Like he
Yeah.
was at SBR when Ambrose was dominating.
And we all see what happens on track. It's great to hear some of the stuff going on behind the scenes. Triple A is unique, I guess, in that the engineering arm is so big outside of motorsport.
Yeah,
Go on.
I love hearing the business side too because we quite often talk to drivers. We've driven ourselves and stuff like that, but I love hearing from you guys that have, the white collar side of the motorsport world, like how it works. I just find that super intriguing. And listening to you, Earl, you can tell that you deal with some things in your day-to-day world at Shaw and Partners because none of this stuff seems to be phasing you. As you say, like you're like, bring it on. I deal with this shit every day. This is, I think that's great. And Steve, obviously, your
I've been
expertise.
in my court case before just quietly and I've had my tail bloody between my legs and walked out, and I've had plenty of times where I've walked out there high-fiving, and you become a bit of a bush lawyer after a while. And in our business, intellectual property, stealing of intellectual property, confidentiality agreements maybe potentially be breached, and you've got to go and get subpoenas or whatever it might be, checking computers and phone records and paying for all that data to be cleansed in our world. And when you're buying and selling businesses, which is what my world is, that's standard practice.
Yeah.
And and it's quite interesting. You raise it to a few people and they sort of start getting a bit misty-eyed and, well, that's not fair. Well, hang on, mate. It's not fair. It's legal. You're allowed to do it and it's proper and right. And guess what? If nothing wrong's been done, then it'll all be shown
You don't have a
that
problem.
being the case. So it's all okay. Don't worry. We're the ones spending the money. So
I love that.
That's what you've got to do. And that's not... This is a business, and it's a big money business. Every one of those teams is spending somewhere between 5 to 10, 12 million bucks to keep their teams alive. This is not bottle tops. It's real money. It's real sponsorships. It's real wages and salaries. And they're little businesses within themselves that it's a serious game. And we're all, at the end of the day, want to win on the racetrack. We're all racers. We want to win. That's in the DNA of every person up and down pit lane. And let's be honest, half the teams steal each other's sponsors. They go from one to the other. Everyone's doing, and it's stealing each other's drivers, mechanics, and it's in every single vernacular of motorsport worldwide. It's nothing new. And you've got to play the game tough. And as we say in our business, choose your weapon. We're okay, whichever weapon you want to choose, bare knuckle, gloves, however you want to do it. We're up for it. Let's
And
go.
you're definitely not going to intimidate you, Steve.
No.
No, mate. It's all. Look, it is. It's good, and mate,
And it's good fun.
it is good fun, mate. To be honest with you, it's good fun. And mate, look, I'm a brawler. I don't mind. What it is. I'm not
Bloody
afraid to say what I've got to say. People don't have to agree with me. They can put shit on me, do whatever they like. I don't really care.
That's the most important thing. Is no one has to agree with anyone. Like, we can all have our own. That's why we have this podcast.
No. And mate, look, to be honest, this is the absolute God's honest truth. Mate, we've been kissed on the you-know-what by a fairy, mate. We bought into a team that is the best team in Australian motorsport history. And however it all it came about, and we're there. And so we talk like, we're the greatest team, but we're trying to come lately. We landed there 6 months ago. But I'll make the point that, mate, last year was probably, having Jamie as the CEO, but running the team and doing everything, mate, I think we scored the most amount of points that the team's ever scored in its history last year, and the gap between us and second was, whatever it was. And so Jamie, the team... I went back the other day and I was reading some old articles, and people were, I think it was folks or someone had written some stuff about RD, and you're saying, now RD's handing it over Jamie. Is it all going to go downhill? And so, and I think the Sleuth wrote something the other day. Is this all going to happen? It doesn't happen. And the reason it's not really, mate, because of us, but you go in there and you're part of it. You see it.
Steve,
The best people.
There's
Hey,
depth.
don't
There's depth.
spoil that. It's because of that.
Well, we did points last year. You say it is you guys.
Yeah,
We did actually say to them when we won the championship at the end of last year, and they said, "Isn't it fantastic winning the championship?" I said, "Guys, we won a champion last year. You
We're
remember
back to
that?"
back.
You guys, you haven't lost one yet.
Yeah, we're back to back.
You're
We're
actually the only ones last year in the team that were back-to-back champs.
That's right.
But
Just
but
carrying race
I think
teams year to year.
Steve's, right though. You sort of sit there and go, "We're the lucky ones."
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful sport. It's great heritage. I think what's interesting, it might be worth touching on too. Jamie, I think in 22 they had a very successful year. I think they won the championship, they won Bathurst, they won everything they possibly could. That was his first year as a CEO and running the organisation. And I think everybody basically in mainstream media, it was Roland, and he's a big character, right? Like big shadow all over the place. So he didn't really get the credit for it. I don't think that he probably deserved. And I think the team is hell-bent, led by Jamie, to build their own legacy without that larger-than-life character, who, by the way, deserves his reputation, deserves the legend status that he's got to this sport, no doubt about it. He's unbelievable. And so I think, what made it phenomenal last year, it really felt that he was building and the team was building their own legacy without this legendary founder who is no longer there in any way, shape or form. And there's a real, like I said, even the events in the last week, not that the team need to be galvanised, but because they're a pretty strong group.
It's important to have happened, though.
Well, the reason why the team's so successful, the systems, the processes, the dedication and commitment to those systems and processes, second to none.
Yeah.
And this if there was a little chink, which there wasn't, everyone was very calm. I repeat again, nobody came and said, you need to pay me this to stay or been offered that. Like basically everyone would have stayed for the same money anyway and not gone anywhere. And we could have done nothing. We just felt, let's just stop looking over our shoulder of the last week where we're going, shit, you're hearing all this stuff. Let's all put it to bed. Everyone wanted the same outcome. It was all wrapped up within 72 hours. And we come out this weekend and we get a first and a second the first race. And that probably shows you how much it rattled us. It didn't really at all.
Yeah. I wanted to actually, because you're both sponsors originally in the sport, now you're still investing anyway in the sport, but you both support the people by the sounds of it. And I've had a couple of questions come through online about, I've even had phone calls with people that listen to the show that are trying to raise sponsorship, or, drivers have reached out about some advice on, because both of us have had to raise money to go racing. What's actually some advice you could give to someone, or what's the most important thing someone should be considering when they're dealing with a sponsor or when they're looking for a sponsor? Because Will, from the outside, I mean, he doesn't even have to try. He's so good with relationships. He's always on the phone. He's not a texter. He's on the phone. But he's managed to do such a good job at finding all these partners. His helmet's covered and everyone loves him. But I do want to hear, because it's good, I think, for listeners that might be coming through junior ranks and they're trying to, find their way and find some sponsors and learn how to add value to them, because that's the hardest thing as well. Sometimes as a driver, what is the value we offer?
Yeah, because Steve, you've done a lot, obviously, too, with Cam Crick and the Super program that you did.
I mean, I've done Kai, Davey Russell, Richie Stanaway when we got Richie back into the sport with Pete.
So what do they do to stand out?
Look, I suppose there's different motivations. One for why you sponsor people. So trying to, I suppose, with young people, if you're trying to align with a brand, trying to understand what their motivation is. And I was probably, when I was sponsoring more and not so much into the team ownership sort of world, I sort of split it between wanting people to promote my brand and for brand awareness, but also I just had a love and a passion and wanted to see people, try and achieve things that they would otherwise not be able to achieve. And I think one of the, I suppose, the hard things I would say for people is when they go and it's, and you're trying to sell something to a sponsor, whatever you commit to, the onus is on you to follow that up.
Yeah.
And so I've had a couple of tough conversations with kids and people I've sponsored and said, hey, mate, you told me you're going to do this and all that. Oh, you haven't asked me. I said, did you get paid? And they go, oh, yeah. I said, you didn't ask me to pay you.
Yeah.
We did an agreement. I paid you. You should be chasing me. And when can I do that? That's what you got to do. And I think that's where a lot of people go, oh, well, I've got the money now, so I'm going to go off and do something else. Look, you raised Cam Crick. Cam's an exception to the rule across everything because Cam just about lives in your office after you sponsor him.
I've noticed that.
It's like you adopt a child, and and he wants to do something for you every single day.
Yeah.
And you try to find things for him to do. Mate, I've never seen anyone work as hard as Cam does to, one, get the sponsorship, and then he works so hard to follow you up to try and deliver on what he says. So, mate, he's an exceptional talent in that space. Not everyone's of the same ilk. But I would say this, a lot of young kids come and they offer you exactly the same thing. They produce a document that says, oh, this is how many people watch Supercars, so if you sponsor me, it's going to go. It doesn't work. Mate, the truth is the return on the investment.
Yep.
I found it's so true, Steve, as you said, like there has to be a relationship there. And I think you touched on it earlier, Earl, as well, with when you were doing the stuff at Erebus with the people there. If there's not a relationship there, even if they are returning on what they say, it's probably not going to be a strong partnership.
And it can start small.
My current title sponsor started small 4 or 5 years ago. And, we just build that relationship. Now they're my title sponsor and we have this great relationship and it's amazing, but it's definitely a relationship over. I don't
name them?
Yeah, so
Pioneer DJ.
Pioneer DJ.
I was just making the point, if you're going to go out, name them, because, mate, there's no point in talking about them unless you're telling me who they are.
We do talk about a lot on the show. I didn't want to, but yeah, so like these microphones we're using, Jans, they are the Shure distributor for Australia and New
They're
Zealand.
our first supporter on the pod. Got us the
It's a
microphones.
really good question, and from a different lens to it. And I think we sponsor a lot, but again, going back to my involvement in motorsport 4 years ago, whilst I was a passionate fan, watched every supercar race, every Sandown, the 10 Sandown or the Hang 10 bloody 500s or whatever they were that bloody Peter Brock won, and for decades, to putting $15,000 on the front of Erebus, and now I'm into this thing for millions. I'm sponsoring bloody NASCARs and doing all this sort of stuff, which I personally pay for. It's under the Shaw and Partners banner, but it's out of my pocket, most of it. There's no benefit in me sponsoring a NASCAR. As a matter of fact, we just deposited a whole bunch of money for somebody to go and race an Infinity car overseas. So only 24 hours ago. But
Awesome.
yeah, which will be cool. But I think there's two different types of sponsors. So if I could give any of your young budding listeners here or anybody else a couple of layers. One, there's two types of sponsors. There's one that's just looking purely at the numerics. So they're the big brand, bulge brackets, the beer companies, the this, that, and the other that are looking for, in whatever sport it might be, if I look at Supercheap Auto or whatever, Hewlett-Packard, they're looking at absolute return, eyeballs, what's the return? Very hard to win their hearts and minds. They're very numerical focused. You're not normally dealing with an owner. You're dealing with somebody else that's representing a public company with money. So it's got to be fact-based. The second type of sponsor is the wood ducks like Steve and I that are emotionally involved. You're winning our hearts, mind and soul. And so you've got to find somehow a bit of a wedge into that. If you overlay that, if I was to give one bit of advice to any athlete, and I deal with a lot of them in Ironman, in women's basketball, in soccer, in rugby league, in supercars, and I've done it for years and years and years. The one thing, the difference between the good and the bad is communication skills. So if I could give any advice, if you want to look at a good investment banker, we can all add up. If you're an investment banker, normally you should be able to add up. The difference between a good and a bad is the ones that have put a lot of effort into upgrading and upskilling themselves on their communication skills. It's 80% of the job. So for people like us, if people, I look at James Courtney. We've got a great relationship with James, and you go to lunch with him, and before you know it, you barrel around. He's a character, he's a great driver, and before you know it, you've walked out sponsoring his visor or something. Gee whiz, how you going? What's happened there? Will does an exceptional job of following up his sponsors. So every year that we've sponsored Will, he'll send a helmet at the end of every year, or he'll send a framed picture of one of his victories, and he'll just turn up at your office. When he rings you for the money, you can't say no. As opposed to there's plenty of people that we sponsor who are great athletes, phenomenal human beings. You get nothing from them.
They neglect
They don't even give you a Christmas card. Will, he's texting you on Christmas Day. He's sending you a Christmas card. That's the difference in the good and the bad. One, he genuinely means it. But for emotional sponsors like us, that's the difference between, you're really getting exposure for the job we did with Will last year in the NASCAR, or the Super 2 car with Jack.
Yep.
Jack's become a very, very dear friend to us. We just went up to Hawaii. Actually, I took some mates up there from the 60th. He's added so much. For anything that I don't understand about cars, I just ask him, and he tells me from an engineering perspective or whatever it might be. And we've just become great mates. And so when he rings me and says, I'm thinking about doing this Super 2, whatever you want to put in, okay, right, mate, well, I'll underwrite it. Just whatever the shortfall is, I'll put in. But the value that he's had, the friendship, the creation, a little bit like you with Cam, in your house, living in your house or in your business. So I think they're the two, the feedback, lift your communication skills. And are you really giving value? If you're not giving value on eyeballs, for your brand, then you better be adding value on something else. And, like I said, when Will, who just become the champion, sends you a helmet at the end of the year and signed, you nearly have to go again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as my dad always said when I was very, very young, he said, Earl, whatever bill you get, add 10% on it. So why would you add 10% on every bill? Because you're prepaying your future. And that's the object of giving the helmet or giving the frame jersey. Or, I just had a frame come to me yesterday. Oh, you dropped it off this morning, didn't you? Picked it up to come down here, which was a framed race suit that had been sent to me by somebody. And
actually come through ZMM, which is a memorabilia company, which is actually supporting the podcast. They're
really?
Come on through.
There you go.
Oh, cool.
They actually like the pod as well. And that is good to hear. I only thought of that question because it is a difficult one to kind of know where to start if you're looking for sponsorship. And the most important thing is to know what you need to offer. And I think you're right, that self-improvement is really just investing in yourself and is important.
Well, I think Quinny went to dinner with Liam Lawson last night, didn't he?
A couple of nights ago,
A couple of nights ago, right?
Yeah,
And that started
that.
off as a sponsorship. Well, what's Quinny getting out of it? What he's getting out of it is satisfaction of giving back.
Yeah.
He's not making any money from it. He doesn't need the profile.
Yeah.
It's not selling him any extra cans of dog food or whatever he sells these days. He did it because he's a wealthy guy putting in, and he had a connection. And Liam Lawson, and I think you said, Quinny wasn't going to go to dinner, and he said to Steve, I'm a bit tired, I might just go from Adelaide straight home. And what did you say to him?
No, I told him, I said, mate, you can't. If someone wants to give back and say thanks, you've got to take that. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity, really.
Which is what Liam probably was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did see you on TV today with Liam, actually. Steve, you're in the pit lane.
You can expect big improvements in his racing tomorrow.
Transport, just like what you guys...
Seems like you guys are the lucky charms. I might just sort of rub against you as you leave just to make sure I get some luck this season.
There's a hard bite on the business side, but we're like a couple of jokers that walk up and down pit lane, love walking into people's pits and saying g'day. We think it's fantastic. I know there's a hard mongrel underneath for all of us, but sometimes people don't quite know how to sort of take us, and we love having a laugh and a hoot. Life's too short.
Bloody oath.
Jade, who sort of runs my business, she sort of calls me the Labrador. She says you run up and down pit lane just trying to get a pat on the head, smiling and wagging your tail, and then you come back to me and say, oh, here's a bill.
I got 200 trucks I need to lease out. What's going on?
Yeah. Let's sort of dive into, Earl, you're a shareholder in Race, which obviously controls Supercars. Just what do you think? Like, how's Supercar tracking? Because obviously, as you said earlier, we hear all the stuff. Sometimes the fans don't mind shit canning every now and again. How do you think it's tracking, and what can it do you think, to improve the show for the fans?
Yeah. I think, look, there's some things they've done really, really well. There's some things that they've done poorly. There's lots they can do better, but that's all of us. I think at the end of the day, they ponied up their 65 mil or whatever it was for the business. They got their balls on the line too. It's not like it's a free carry. It's pay to play. They paid to play. Everyone's got a different opinion. I think, they're probably, if I was to give a rating out of it, which you should never do because I'll get caned, someone will ring me from Super, that's terrible. I think they're probably a 7 out of 10. And I think they're going to probably at 8.5. And again, to give you that, on that Friday night, nobody was there in Sydney. I was critical. I actually said, move the race to a Saturday, make it a double header on the Saturday. So you get the night race and you get another. No one's coming from Cronulla or Manly an hour and a half on a Friday night for a 40-minute race. Nobody. And then it's another hour and a half home. But the naivety from my commentary was not thinking about no footy on a Friday night, on that night, and the TV. Well, someone in Supercars was smart enough to think that.
Yeah.
They just don't come out and brag about it, but they killed the pig on the actual visuals and on the TV and on KO. So from a sponsorship perspective, great eyeballs. They just weren't there at the event. So I think they're doing a really good job. I think there's things they could do better. I think their online platform is improving. And I think it shouldn't be under-recognised that you grow into roles A lot of criticism on Shane. Is he a CFO, COO, director of motorsport, or a CEO?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I don't know. That's for the board to make that decision, not for me. But he's got a great history of the sport. He knows it very, very well. Barclay's copped an absolute bloody caning. If I listen to what happens up and down the pits, but you grow into a role, and he's learnt a little bit more, and I think he's made some mistakes and said some things he shouldn't have, and all sorts of stuff. And maybe you just, sometimes for the first few months, you better just actually listen, say nothing, and observe. But again, I think they acquired their business in the middle of COVID. That was a really, really tough time to acquire the business, or it went into COVID as they bought it, if I recall it. And I think it's getting better and better. I think, they'll add another race to it next year. Where it is, I don't know, but they'll add it. I would guess, as the rumours it's been talked about for a year, make a doubleheader in New Zealand or something. Well, I don't know whether that happens or they go somewhere else, but there'll be another round. So they're getting back to that 15, 16. I think they've got visions on overseas because it didn't work previously.
Yeah.
When they went to the US or they went into Saudi country, that doesn't mean it doesn't work again. So for all the dickheads that are experts on why it didn't work before, it means it'll never work it again. The second mouse sometimes, or most times actually, the second mouse gets the cheese, right? So, because the first one got snotted doesn't mean the second one can't actually come and make a go of it. So, I think they're going well. I think they're going okay. I think they did a great job on renewal of Fox. Everyone bagged the shit out of it. If you go up and down, they're not going to get a contract with Fox again. They're going to get squeezed. They're going to get this thing. Well, they didn't. They did a great deal. And what a lot of people didn't understand, because is the audience between Supercars and rugby league specifically is the same audience.
Right.
So from Fox's perspective, it actually is same time of the year. They get to keep the eyeballs on Fox. And that was the reason why the deal was always going to get done, right? Because it wasn't, everyone kept just thinking race car, the audience is terrible, Supercars, it's Supercars and rugby league. The alignment in the audience is identical.
So Supercars actually had some bargaining power because they understood that. And they said, well, you want to keep them on for 6 hours a day versus 2.
Yeah. So I think, everyone bagged Shane and Barclay and the board. I think they're doing a pretty good job. And I think, I think they're going, can they do better? 100%, no question. Do they have to do better? 100% they've got to do better.
Where do you see that they could do better? It's at a 7 at the moment. Where do you think?
What takes it to an 8.5?
I think their social media has to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably recognise that, but I think their online platform is getting better. But I personally thought 2 years ago it was pretty poor.
Yep.
Right? That was my own personal experience when I went online and did various things. But I think, they're getting better at that. I think there's no question that as a result of COVID, learning the ropes and only having 12 races, that's crap for everybody. Not enough eyeballs, too many big stop-starts between a race and another race. So I think to get back to 15 or 16 races, I think is super, super important, and to do it quickly. I can't speak for them, but I'd be flabbergasted if next year we don't add another round. So it gets us back to 14. We're sort of getting there, step at a time. I think that losing, Tim, I think during the week was a bad loss. So I'll be asking questions to why we lost Tim.
Tim Wattsford, that is you're talking about, yeah.
I mean, why did he go? He went to St George, so he's gone to rugby league again, same audience, same people.
Right.
So
and everyone that I've spoken to is saying Tim was meant to be the successor to Shane, and I only say that because Shane was originally, I thought, temporary. Well, not temporary, but it was a short-term thing. When they announced Shane, it was going to be a short-term thing. So not saying good or bad for Shane. I think it looked like Tim was meant to be the next guy.
Look, good young brain, good young mind, vertical and horizontal thinker. He's got a good broad commercial brain. And whether he was going to be the CEO or not the CEO, why did we lose him? That's the most important thing. You can't afford to lose. When you get really good talent, he's good. You can't afford to lose it.
Well, it's like you guys have said, people tried to poach staff from Triple Eight because they're happy there.
Yeah.
They stayed.
Correct.
Not a drama. So, why did he leave? Was he obviously wasn't happy, or there was a better offer? Someone was able to give him a carrot of an extra pay rise or whatever it be, and he's...
Oh, mate, look, he's a smart guy, like all smart people in the business world. You want to go up the curve. Who wants to stay, a co-driver? You want to be the lead driver, right? Like so in business terms, you want to be the CEO. I'm assuming. I never dealt with him, so I don't know his ability. I don't know at what level, but he has gone into another role, or is going into another role as a CEO. And on what everybody says, and my limited interaction with him, but I haven't had a lot, but my limited, he's a super bright guy. That doesn't mean that can't be replaced. I think it's more, so what could they do better? I think somewhat their social media. I think a little bit more urgency and speed to market. So just more urgency. Let's put some oomph in it. Like at the end of the day, Shane is the ringleader of a circus. And he's got the top hat on and the whip. We're all just monkeys in the circus, really, at the end of the day, the 12 teams. So, you've got to be the leader. You've got to be. And if you look at the great leaders, and if you go back to Roland, he dragged Triple Eight to where he wanted it to be, and that put a lot of noses out of joint, upset a lot of people, but he achieved his outcome and goal, and that was to win championships.
Yeah.
And you got to say 10 out of 10. And I think that's the job of any CEO of any business. Their board is to hold that CEO accountable. And I think, Shane, I've really had no interactions with him. He's a competent individual on what I've seen. Great history, knows the sport back to front. But like everything, you've got to keep disrupting, you've got to keep innovating, and you've got to keep breaking new ground. So, again, if I was Supercars, how do we break new ground? How do we actually take this to the new level? Stop talking about it, actually do it is always the mantra in any business. But I think, they added New Zealand to it. I think it was probably a year too late. It should have been done the year before.
Yep.
It was always going to be a winner. The crowd were yelling out for it.
Yeah.
When it happened, it was an absolute belter.
Yeah.
So, to me, that was a year too late. They should have done a year prior, but that doesn't matter. It's happened now. They'll add another round next year. Probably should happen this year. And there's many things that, as you know, with the Rex, you pay X dollars per round. So some teams said, no, don't do it because, Supercars didn't want to pay it, I don't think. And then, teams sort of saying we can't fund it, another round. So the answer is always somewhere in the middle.
This is where, though, I found it crazy that we did a test on the Wednesday. So some teams went to Sydney, launched on the Sunday, stayed in Sydney, tested on the Wednesday, then had to stay for the weekend. And then instead of having like a Friday, Saturday event, we had to Sunday, which meant that our ride day was pushed back to Monday. So some teams are on the road for like 8 days, which the cost of just that alone, I mean, even making a Melbourne team drive to Sydney for a test day when they could have gone to Winton for a day trip is madness. And then we talk about, the teams say no because they can't afford to do another round. Well, we just spent $400 a day per person to stay on the road in Sydney when we could have made that a 2-day event, been ride day on Sunday, back Monday, and done an extra event somewhere.
But I think
that cost.
I think it is going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. At what pace, that's for other people to judge, whether it's 90 kilometres an hour or 40 kilometres an hour, whatever. But it is going in the right direction. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
The audiences, on the viewing perspective, is pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, people have got to get over the old crowds of 30 years ago where there was no social media. There was only really radio, TV,
had to go.
papers, and, that was a big event to go to a live show. Exactly.
The product in your lounge room is so good. It's actually like...
Why do you want to leave?
And if you love the sport, you're almost better off watching it on telly because...
100%.
Well, it's like
you
Bathurst,
get so
mate.
much out of it.
It's like Bathurst. I love going to Bathurst and being in the pits and supporting Scotty or whoever, all the other guys that are racing. And
You drove home on Saturday to watch it on TV.
Because I love the race so much too. There's nothing better than seeing and actually being engaged in the race because you can hear what's going on more. And as you said, the broadcast and, it's so good now on TV. You can pick up on a lot more than if you're actually at the event. So
just one last comment on it. And I think it's probably recognised by race. How do you do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I got some views not to share here, but and not that they're that controversial. But
Yeah.
the sport needs to bring in controversy. It needs to bring in characters. And even the bullshit we're talking about, GM, Roland, Dane, bloody buggerlugs over here.
Steve's going to go and uppercut him tomorrow because he didn't invite him to coffee.
It's unreal, right? That's what it's all about. When Duddo was in the pits last week, last, you remember that?
Yeah.
It's pretty
Randall
good.
went. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah.
You need more of that. Like you look at NASCAR and someone's running in something, belted someone or whatever. You don't want it every day, but you need to have controversy. So I think in our sport, I think, again, personally, I think the drivers are all too friendly.
Yeah.
If you want my honest opinion, everyone's matey, and we're all going down to, what's that restaurant in Adelaide afterwards, and we're all celebrating the end of the season and whatever.
Well, we had Scotty Mack, and I said, your rivalry, or today he came on the pod, and I said, your rivalry with Shane has almost transcended our sport. Like, every question we got was about, from the fans, was about Shane and Scott together. Their rivalry kind of bolstered the championship. If Scotty was just on his own, everyone was happy, and Jamie didn't exist.
You've got to hate your opposition. If you don't... going down for, what stays on the field goes, all that bullshit, that's all crap. And I think that's what made Jamie Whincup so good. He was laser focused, not a fan favourite, as in number one, wasn't hated, but he just focused on what he did. Fitness, concentration, driving, look at the achievement. I think so, for me, more storylines within the sport, not manufactured, but actually
genuine,
flushed out, which is not hard to do. And so I think Supercars really need to work hard on that. They need to lift the profile of the drivers, and you've got to do it in an authentic way. And let's stop talking about it. Let's stop thinking about it. Get some smart people in a room, probably some people like you guys. And how do we actually create that?
Yeah, I think they're on the right track with allowing the drivers to play on a bit more on track, because that organically creates some rivalries. Like
Sydney's a perfect example.
You might not like it. You'll be on the receiving end of it sometimes, but that's kind of what you need to create these rivalries that aren't fabricated. They're real on-track battles.
I think, like we talked about earlier with kids wanting sponsorship, I think probably my criticism of the sport is their communication's terrible. They might know what's going on. No one else is really clear on it.
The sport isn't transparent, you mean?
Yeah, well, not that they're not transparent, but they're not good at selling what's going on. Like if they're going to open it up and make the racing more exciting, sell that. Push that. Let us know, hey, come and watch this because it's on. You used to watch the Speedway, their big advertising campaign was you're going to watch everything get smashed up and bashed up and crushed up. I'm not saying that that's where it's at, but, there's a lot of good stuff in the sport. Sell it. Earl's lucky because he's got an insight, right? He's an owner and he gets an insight. But do you know the things that he's talking about? Do you know? Like, we all should know a lot of stuff. And, mate, I look at the sport and you look at the people who are involved in it, like Stephen Grove, the Blanchard family, Peter Zibris, us. There's some pretty cluey people.
Yeah.
Like, how often do they engage with those people?
Do they not?
You'd have to ask them, but I'm with Peter. I'm with Steve.
Yeah.
They're super intelligent people.
Yeah,
very, very successful businessmen.
Yeah.
Very successful. They're not just muppets.
Yeah.
Sit them in a room and say, what do we need to do? And also too, from a team perspective, we all want the values of our recs to go up.
Of course.
Like
1,000%.
Yeah, you're sitting here going, that's my plan.
You look what they're worth in NASCAR
I
or...
was just going to say NASCAR now, they're over 40 mil. You can't, like, Earnhardt, I think, just got knocked back on a 40 mil offer for one. Like, it's just crazy. They're just skyrocketing.
I think like all these things too, though, it takes a little bit of luck. You get the odd break. The one thing I give, Yuri and Barclay and the guys that, that put money in, it's pay to play. They put their balls on the line. They put up their capital.
Absolutely.
The punters can all have their views, but these guys are running a business. They are there to make their equity, and I can't remember what the price was, 65, 75 mil, something like that. That's a reasonable check to be writing.
Yeah.
So, like, if they're going to run it into the ground, they lose a lot of money themselves. So to make that sort of money means they've had some wins in other things at some point in time. And I think it's okay. Like I said, I'm saying a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
It might be 8.5. But like all things, we have a very successful business, our business, but it's taken us 10, 12 years to build it. It just didn't happen overnight. So, like race of 3 years in, they've got to put up with all the bullshit of, people saying they're going to buy them out and do this, and then they're selling to someone overseas and all that sort of stuff. They're focused on what they're doing. They're wanting to protect their investment. I think they're going okay, and I think, we've got to rally behind them, help them, be supportive. As team owners, we've all got to be supportive of it. We're the buddy monkeys in the circus. They're the ringleaders, and we're in the entertainment business. So bring on a bit of entertainment. The rating went through the roof on that Saturday night with that racing. We need more of that shit.
Yeah.
And we need a bit more of Duddo. That's what we need. We need characters in the business. It'd be phenomenal if they could do, a bloody online, series or something like what you guys do here. Or it's a bit too sanitised, I think. It seems a bit too sanitised. Yeah. So, like, rip the Band-Aid off.
People tend not to trust mainstream either. If you can make it a bit more independent, and it's good because there's definitely no bullshit in what you're saying, because you've come on and supported us because you loved how. Yeah. And I don't think we'd ever expect a phone call from you or any of our partners that have come on board because we've been doing it long enough and tell us, hey, avoid this or steer away from this, because you wouldn't have supported it in the first place if you want it to be mediated.
Well, it's a bit like you guys. When you started, they swear too much, or what's this plaque in the beer or whatever. Mate, you know what that is? That's your point of difference. That's your shtick. That's your edge. Yeah. And that's why your ratings have just gone bananas.
What's relatable, though, too, because for us, we legit would be at a pub and we're chatting, and I'd want to do a pod for a long time. This is how it came about. I said to Elliot, like, why don't we just film this and just see if it works? And you were like, I don't know, because Elliot, one of the big things was, which was awesome because you've kind of come at your show, was like, I haven't done main series, and the public can be so critical. Talk about online hate.
Yeah, they're like, who the fuck's this bloke? He's raced some Ute, some Trans Am, did a bit of Super 2, but really, like I've been in support category land my whole life because I'd never made it.
Yeah.
So people go, well, why would I listen to this bloke talk shit? But
But the common interest is motorsport, and we love it. And it's just, this is how we do it. This is how we talk about it. And it's relatable.
I think you should get more owners on.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you should get some of the engineers on. It'd be good to just get 2 engineers from 2 different teams. Just all like it's interesting dialogue, and it's why we all read magazines and storylines and education, and you get to know people's personalities, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's one of the best parts about it. There actually is a stack of personalities
Yeah.
up and down,
Oh.
pit lane, and it's like you get to know them, you get to see them, and let's get it on display.
Yeah.
I think
That's
like anything. Sport brings out passion. Everyone's passion. Everyone wants to race. Everyone's passionate in supercars. Everyone wants to race. Everyone wants to win, improve. In our involvement, the last 4 or 5 years, they're all pretty good people. We all have our good days and our bad days. And someone runs someone off the road, and you have a boo, and you don't talk to them for a while, and all that sort of shit. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally, everyone's got the interest of the sport. Everyone loves it. I mean, the hours that those bloody mechanics.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I get asked, do the mechanics work full time? And it's
What?
like, well, because I guess people think it's only 12 times a year, and that's why it's actually good. I would love to get mechanics and engineers on. Like Robbie Starr is someone from Walkinshaw that I want to reach out to and get on, because he's been 1991 was his first year at the Holden Racing team and has been there ever since. And people don't understand the amount of energy that's put into this championship every year by those guys. And there's a million of those stories up
the
and down
truck
the lane.
drivers,
Yeah.
mate, Pommy and Tim,
It's a hard slog too as a truck driver.
mate.
Well, people don't realise that they actually do a lot. Like
Yeah.
the truck,
Mate,
he's not
tyres,
just the
everything.
Their tyres, they're everything, but they're driving around, they're doing I love sitting around and chatting to them blokes. Obviously, I love trucks, so I love sitting down and chatting to them blokes. But they're on the road all the time, and
But then they arrive at the track and they're doing tyres and working
That's
their
what
backside.
makes Peter so bloody good as a
Peter
as a-
Zibris?
No, Peter from Boost.
attitude.
Oh,
Addison.
Addison.
Yeah,
And you
he's
sit
sorry.
there and you say, that's what makes him such like a character. You need people
Yeah.
like that in the sport. One, he's got no filter. Two, he doesn't give a shit whether you like him or you hate him. I think he's actually right in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
What's he say about, you want to date the hottest girl or something, you've got to expect a few tantrums that come.
Oh, yeah.
The crazy hot scale.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like, and there's another, like he just, pocketed him and his partners a couple of $100 million for Boost. He's a savvy, smart businessman. So the rhetoric's one thing. Underneath it is a very, very acute brain. And that guy's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
Mate, we're good
Yeah.
mates, and he gave us a serve. And someone said to me, "Oh, look, you mate, you must be upset. Pete's giving you a serve." I said, "Mate, I'd be disappointed if he didn't."
Yeah.
Mate, there's no filter with Pete. It's like, mate, if you deserve a serve, you get one. But
Yeah.
At least
Mate.
you know where you stand, right?
mate, and a lot of people say, "Oh, have a fight or a blue with someone, mate." Like Pete's got the memory of a goldfish. By the time he's done a lap of the bowl, he loves you again. So he's good. Like it's fucking awesome. He's and you can have an argument with him, a blue with him.
But again,
couldn't care less.
I'll tell you the other thing with Peter, which I didn't know because I've only known him the last 4 or 5 years, but like he has put, like a lot of people have got opinions, a lot of people muck around, but he has put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
He has put millions in. Not that we're fly-by-nighters. We've been in here 4 or 5 years. 25 years ago, that bloke was sponsoring a motorbike rider or something.
Supercars.
Like he has put millions and millions of his own personal money into the sport. Again, it's you can't change that, and that's from a good heart. That's from being passionate about the sport. Like he's just a mad revhead.
Yeah.
And and the guy, again, he's put millions into it from the sponsorship perspective. Yeah, and there's like, will he own a team? Won't he own a team? All that bullshit. At one point, he'll pop up out of the blue, might be 5 years' time, and he'll own a team. It'll happen when someone least expects it, and you'll, shit, there's Peter. And, we all know he can afford it. He could have afforded before he sold his business. He's a wealthy bloke.
Yeah.
Running, what do they call it? Bi-coastal. He's got that big mansion on the water at Mossman and the big, big pad at bloody Laguna Beach.
He's doing all right.
He's going okay. Don't worry. He's not having to scrape together his money for a coffee, and he's just sold his business for a couple $100 million. So him and his partner. So but you need characters like that. That's what the sport needs. They need more of it. They're difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Difficult to deal with. And a lot of cases, it's a bit like the drama we've had in the last 7 days. That's that's the picture of what keeps people entertained.
Yeah.
Mate, my kids love following the Josh Verstappen, Christian Horner,
Yep.
Toto Wolff Blue that goes on constantly, more than anything else. They're like, oh, you heard what he did. We heard what he did. Look, it's controversial. It's all a bit of fun, but it keeps people engaged. And, I think, I have my daughter actually over in New York at the moment, and she's studying sports management and business and stuff, and she's feeding me information and things that she's getting from America and, should do this, should do that. But, there is scope to improve the way we do business. I think, Formula One have done it well. Like, they're engaging with young kids, mate, through Lego. Collaborations on everything. You can go down and buy a Liam Lawson burger at Grilled or something this weekend, or
Oscar Piastri burger.
Oscars, whatever it is.
That's what we need to be better at.
We've got to do that stuff.
You raised a good point. The Race of Champions.
Yeah.
Supercars should have partnered. We should have had a couple of supercars there. Yes, we had some drivers, but that's just because the Race of Champions asked them, not because supercars drove it. I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't think. It's just because they asked them.
It's like a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, to collaborate and on a global audience. How could we have done something? So exactly what you said, the collaborations on all the things. If you look at, you just look at Formula One, you go back 10 years ago, and you look at it and go, whoever would have thought in a million years Rolex would have been involved?
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton would have been involved.
The whole term one, Louis Vuitton is everywhere.
It's mind-blowing. So therefore...
Women.
Why can't we do that?
100%.
Why can't we do that? I'm not saying it needs to be Louis Vuitton, but think big, think bold, bring in some big brands. Why can't we do that?
It's funny too, because we were in Adelaide on the weekend at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, and I said to Scotty, there are so many women at this event, which blew my mind, because it's a motorsport show and shine, really. But they had a lot of high-end marquees that you could purchase to go have a glass of champagne, have a nice lunch. Yeah. It felt... so it blew me away.
What do you think horse racing is so big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you?
It's not the horse racing.
100%.
It's not because they like watching horses go in
They're
circles.
in the entertainment business. Yeah. What do you think the Formula One is so good? Because the women love to get dressed up and the men love to get dressed up and show their women off, or vice versa. The women show their men off, whatever. But everyone's dressed to the T's.
That's what Shannon does. She just likes to show. She's very proud and she's very lucky, that girl.
This morning we were on an aeroplane, right? And I pointed it out. We're on an aeroplane this morning coming down here. And I'm looking, and there's a lady probably in her mid-40s sitting in a seat in front of me with an iPad on watching Drive to Survive.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
She's on her aeroplane going down and she's watching Drive to Survive. Now, I don't know what she was doing. She was probably coming here for the Grand Prix or whatever.
Yep.
But, there is stuff that can be done.
Definitely.
To improve it. For me, I probably, and I think I'd spoken to you a bit about it before, I was really sad to see Tim leave.
Yep.
More so because I'd like to see a bit more youth in the leadership of the sport. It's not my business. I don't own it. I'm not paying the bills. They do what they like. But, we are invested in the sport. We want to grow our sport. We love it. And, mate, there is a lot of money being spent in those teams. I thought, we were told that, Tim was the
successor. That was the future.
Successor,
that was what was going to be the future of the sport.
And maybe it'll be someone else, and maybe they got it in hand. I don't know. I'm not privy to that sort of stuff. But I'd love to see a little bit of energy. Earl says probably speed to market. For me, I just call it a little bit more energy.
Yep.
Mate, I love Shane. I love all those guys. Mate, you walk down pit road, they always say hello, greet you. They're always polite. They're always kind. They're always nice. But at the end of the day, I want to see the sport.
Well, there's a shift. I think
On a
also too,
trajectory.
there is a genuine shift in most sporting arenas, but if you look at simply just Formula One, and many of the forms of racing, if you look at NASCAR, if you look at IndyCar, there's a big shift, which I don't think we've got onto as a group yet, but there's a big shift towards tech companies.
Yeah.
Massive shift. I mean, look at Elysium. Two Australian punters that are worth $20 billion each, Mike Cannon-Brooks and Scott Farquhar. And, they've just stuck it on the Williams car.
Steak?
Now, I don't know. Yeah, correct.
Steak. Yeah.
Like that Elysium
Rocked
sponsorship's
on-
probably worth, rocked on the Red Bull car. So we've got to bring in some of that. We've got to move with the trend. We've got to be dynamic. We've got to be seen as entertainment. We've got to be seen as cutting edge.
Yeah.
We've got to be all of those things.
Yeah.
I think they'll get there. It's just a little bit slower than probably what we all would like.
Yeah, I do agree that there needs to be a shift, I think, with some youth, and it's not just at the leadership team, but that will come with time. All that stuff, there is always a shift. You look at the supercar category right now, and I feel like I'm ancient because I walk up and down the lane and there's a lot of. I mean, I looked at the results sheet. There's a lot of zeros next to wins and podiums because we've got a fresh group that's come through, and this is, I think, a real transition period for the category. We've got a lot of young talent to come through. We need to build their profiles up and make the sport bigger.
Mate, when you're investing, you want to invest when it's
at the bottom.
At the bottom,
as low as possible.
As low as you can get it in, and you want to see it grow. And,
Yep.
mate, you know, we're passionate. We love it, and we want to see it grow. So, mate, occasionally I'm going to say something on social media that's going to upset someone or whatever.
I love that you get on the social media too.
Yeah, but I do it not because, and, you know, it's my own passion and my own personal opinions.
Yeah, which is great.
I'm happy to put them out there and share them. I'm not always right, you know, and when I'm wrong, I deny it. No, but I'm not always right. But it's
Sound like a driver. I haven't made a mistake.
Sounds
yet
like
either.
Scott.
But mate, I'm passionate. I love it. I want to see it grow, and I want to see it going not just from an investment point of view, but from a pleasure point of view and
Yeah.
all that. Mate, I'm technically a retired person. You know, people run my business. You know, I do this because I love it.
Yep.
You know, and
We're all fans at the end of the day, mate. That's
Yeah,
why we're in the sport.
you know,
You started as a fan, and now you guys are team owners.
Yeah.
Scotty's a driver. I drive in support games, but we started as because we love motorsport.
And it
mate, I
doesn't
get
matter.
behind. Sorry, I'll just say I get behind that little everybody's motorsport army, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 15,000 sports fans on there. You know, mate, a lot of them can't even afford to go to the sport, but they love it, right? And so, for me, I feel I've got an obligation to engage with them and talk to them, and provide them some information that they wouldn't otherwise know.
Yeah, which is
Help
awesome.
them and do all that sort of stuff, mate. Some people don't like it. Some people, you know, it makes them upset. Whatever. I don't really care.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just do it because at the end of the day, mate, it's engaging with people. It's talking to them. It's relating to them. It's giving them a little bit of what they want.
Yeah. Well, that's
Right,
what
wrong?
this was
What I
about
do?
as well. It is daunting for us. I mean, you guys are my bosses, so who knows? I have checked in with Jamie too and rang up and been like, look, you know, this is what I'm doing. You guys all good with it? And he's like, well, I think the conversation's good for the sport. No one's always going to agree with what you say, but
Well, I think
we
that's
are
the
coming
beauty.
from the same direction.
Yeah, whether you're an owner, whether you're a punter, whether you're a fan, whether you're a sponsor, like it's just whether you're rich, you're poor, in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion. They're like arms and legs, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got them. Like just share them, and that's what these forums do. And they also flush out, you know, good conversation that's raw, honest, not always right. And you know, like I said, you know, you could be Roland, Dane, or you could be somebody else that's offended by something that's been said, or no, he won't be, but it'll be, but you know, because nothing offends Roland. But that's what makes him so successful.
Yeah.
Because he just sleeps very comfortable and doesn't give a shit. But that's what makes him so successful, right? But these conversations actually are good.
Yeah.
And it flushes things out. And someone will walk away, well, that's a really good idea. Or maybe we should have done that collaboration with something or whatever. Or maybe we should be looking at higher brands. Or maybe we should be looking at tech companies. Or maybe we actually do need to, you know, I always look at capacity. So I always say in my business, you know, you're operating at capacity. What's your capacity? Is it 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever it might be? That's your capacity. And how do we improve that capacity? So, you know, if you're at a 7, how do we get to a 7.5? Because if we just make half a, you know, a little dial a notch and 10 people do it, that's big leverage. And the other thing we look at, which I think the sport needs to look at, what's our point of difference? So I always say to my bankers, what's your point of difference? Because if you don't have one, you better have one because you're not going forward. It's not about honesty. I'm an honest guy. Well, everyone's honest. That's a given.
Yeah.
I've got high integrity. I hope so. You know?
Yeah.
What's your personal point of difference? So as a sport, what's our point of difference to the 50 other sports that are out there? I'm not sure we've identified that.
Yeah. And there is more competition out there today than there ever has been.
100%. So you've got to find out what's your point of difference, what's your audience. Formula One have done it wonderfully. You know, they obviously did the Netflix series, which everyone raised about 9-10 years ago, and it's been a huge success. They brought women into the sport. All of a sudden, that's brought in Louis Vuitton and, you know, Rolex and all these other brands at high end that pay big money to be there. It's pay to play. So and it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a 10-year gestation period, right, where they went down that Netflix series, Louis Vuitton's only just come in. You know, Rolex has just come in to replace Tag, I think.
Tags come in to replace Rolex.
Sorry,
Yes,
other way
yeah,
around. There you
yeah,
go. There you go. And that's pay to play, right? That's massive. It's massive.
Guys, it's been too long. It's I've waited, not too long to chat, too long to get you guys in the studio. It's something I've looked forward to, and particularly having some people with real insight into the sport, as shareholders, team owners. So thank you very much for
Get
coming
others
in.
on.
And
Get others on.
Well, we do ask, but some people aren't as brave as you guys. They're a bit
we
scared.
do get a lot of no's.
Listen, today's news, tomorrow's fish and chip wrapping. Like what you say today, everyone's forgotten about
Bloody
it.
oath.
And there'll be another drama. And I said that to Barry on the wall today. I said, he says, oh, you're doing a bit of commentary. I'm just trying to take you out of the news, give us a bit of a turn. and then someone else will come along and give us a break. So it's all right.
Fantastic.
If it's all meant well,
Exactly.
you know, that's life.
Enjoy.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
boys.
Thank you.
That's been awesome.
See you at the
Thanks,
track
guys.
tomorrow.
See ya.
See you there.
Go 888 Race Engineering. Red Bull Ampol Racing.
We'll be at the
You're
podium.
so biased, you guys.